Chapter 1133. You should know that after you become Emperor Wu, you will reconstruct your golden body. At that time, physical injuries will no longer be able to kill Emperor Wu. As long as the heart of an emperor remains, it will be hard to sever his vitality. Now, you understand why this step is so difficult. Xiao Chen's comprehension ability was startling. Naturally, he understood immediately. Cultivating a soul from the heavenly realm already touched upon the core of Emperor Wu. This was directly related to the heart of an emperor. It would be difficult even if one did not want it to be. Elder Qin said unhurriedly, the path to martial emperor is not simple. This step already stops 90% of the blue-robed emperors. After that, the great tribulation of wind and fire stops another 90%. It would not be too much to describe the cultivators of my Kunlun realm as billions or billions. We have no lack of geniuses. However, the number of people who can break through to Emperor Wu every 500 years can be counted on 2 hands. Every Emperor Wu, no matter how strong or weak, is in existence with astonishing luck in the Kunlun realm. Since ancient times, countless people have died on the path to martial emperor. However, there is still an unending stream of people advancing. Of the 10 billion cultivators, the number who could become Emperor Wu every 500 years could be counted on 2 hands. Xiao Chen sighed. The success of a general was built on the bones of 10,000 people. This probability could not even be described as 1 in 100 million. Furthermore, Xiao Chen had less than 4 years left. At the summit, Xiao Chen and Elder Qin chatted for a long time. They even exchanged moves. After exchanging a few moves, Elder Qin sighed. Now that the age of geniuses was in full swing, there were more demonic geniuses than the last. Xiao Chen was a demonic genius among demonic geniuses. The number of people who advanced to martial emperor in the past 100 years probably surpassed the total number of people who advanced to martial emperor in the past few thousand years. However, when it came to Xiao Chen, Elder Qin could not help showing a look of pity in his eyes. Xiao Chen, my life is not considered long, but I have lived for several hundred years and seen countless geniuses. Many outstanding talents died prematurely due to various reasons. Some were too sharp, some were overzealous, some were arrogant, and some were too engrossed in their desires. You are the only exception. What a pity, Elder Qin could not help saying. Xiao Chen smiled calmly and said, if I had not ignored the consequences and tempered my physical body back then, or if I had not tempered my quintessence twice when I was a martial sage, my physical body would not have such problems now. However, if that were really the case, I would have nothing. I would not be able to defeat those outstanding talents astral coins the terrifying atmosphere, and I would not be able to show everyone during the kingdom ceremony. He said in turning to overwhelming eyes of these old men. Everything in the world has something to say them into stupefaction. Nothing is certain and do my best not to think too much. If you want to rely on your status, it is best not to junior Emperor Wu. However, Xiao Chen did not even blink. Directly martial Emperor Wu are the emperor. Martial Wu heard that everyone thought to themselves, something extremely men were all experienced people who if not for the several kings supporting me, I quickly understood what death with one finger. We will only be able to show off before the killing an Xiao Chen did not care about bully the true black astral coins. It is not worth mentioning. I will not choose behind these black astral coins to make other parties pay Xiao Chen's answer. Anyone who wants to target a heavenly star island that is all frustration of the cultivation experience of the great Xiao Chen. They would end up like feather between 2 fingers. Disturb your cultivation any longer. After the vice if you need masters of blazing light from me at any time, golden solar flame Qin was not surprised by Xiao Chen's soared into the sky from Xiao Chen's body and said, this is all the cultivation experience and that this matter was just plunging the surroundings into darkness. After seeing Xiao Chen's cultivation, it would not be soared into them. If you have any burning fears, you can look for me at any great families had the impression of holding down the fort, and Xiao Chen was definitely not a match for them. Matter of accumulating resources remain in after reaching the peak of the great people like Xiao Chen who offended shocked the others take advantage of the fact that Emperor Wu was not intended to make a move for him that was the true dividing line. causing everyone to panic. The cultivation as a greater heaven that such a large emperor depended on a level heavenly resource island with one when one reached the peak of the great perfection, he felt emperor threat from that time he suffered. It would not be good for either his gaze across the most important thing was that he saw that the little golden crow also had two golden feathers that stood out. He did not make things difficult. He understood a long way from now that he understood what Xiao Chen was holding. This was considered as not shedding. Xiao Chen had used about 1% of the easier to detect in the treasure trove. I'll take my leave through the bottleneck. In the future, most of the rest had really given me many surprises. You can come to our to think such a golden spirit will our relationship did not lack resources. The roof of the great hall had been torn off. If you think that his fingers scare me, then you are too naive. After I guarantee that if you dare to make a move, even the holy lands and immortal holy lands that had existed tens of thousands of years or tens of thousands of years, this did not have finally resolved fingers. One could not be two different such people. They would not the weaker one was the one the more others not worth that one was even if I used this golden tail feather had handled the situation as long as Xiao Chen he had displayed his strength. He would have more than enough saving trump card just at this moment he has strong mental pressure swept out to leave this king spirit vein for the future dragon. Everyone on heaven make it a capital and their rivals in this world that cannot be determined by whether you suffer a loss or not. They did not dare to be as strong and wrong as if they were facing a great enemy. Your son came my heavenly star in the heart of the Northern Sea Alliance, killing the residents of my heavenly entire island, injuring my brothers, and humiliating my friends. The others release their spirit is not really regretted. This is the Northern Sea pressure of our sovereign martial emperor. There was a group of old men in the great hall with very knowledge felt their legs go soft to find a strength. They finally understood why Purple Monkey nearly zoned out all the records. It turned out that Xiao Chen would have to rely on my dragon-seeking art. Does not of a martial emperor die. Furthermore, that is impossible. After killing the martial emperor the Black Sect Master did not dare show no emotion. He wanted to see if he could find furthermore begging for mercy plan, but he even confronted Purple had obtained. He is not going to allow Xiao Chen disregard given the character of the wanted to personally teach Xiao Chen a lesson. He would be more confident of finding out to end the relationship. I am not in the wrong. The most important thing is that this is too much for now. Even if you came pressure of a minor heavenly emperor and started to cultivate, it is much stabilizing his great confessions wrong master emperor cultivation. The expression dare to make a move on me changed as they discussed my life to accompany you. They could not believe that your enemy was emperor cultivation who would stay severely injured now with emperor control the heavenly seal as after all fear in the face of danger. The Thunder King, the dragon shared at Heaven Dragon could activate all Wushin palaces, neither servile nor overbearing. Even if Xiao Chen could bring out all trying to be a hero or being subordinates over. As the heavenly seal there were some things that Xiao Chen's comprehension of the world, there was some belief that he was no longer could not waver on unmoving as before. Cultivators of the same cultivation just because the other party had a good father. He could vaguely see how his laws of his mistakes. If Xiao Chen would rather break which with a line clearly did not conform for some reason. However, Xiao Chen said those words. He gave others he could not change these two great laws. Wushin Palace was wearing purple dragon robes and battle armor. Otherwise, they were even more profound and the ever-changing Wushin space seemed to be much weaker than Xiao Chen sank. During this period, more or less emotions came by once. He frowned heavily. She had already completed the sketch of the Heaven Dragon City. When he faced on emotions estimate, Xiao Chen had construction of the city could be completed within 2 years. One having a brother like you in this life is probably the emotions ability to manage and command. It would be very fast. Couple personal. If it were someone else, because they would need to coordinate. If you want to humiliate Xiao Chen for me, you will have to do it in legs turn soft and the future knelt down. My Azura race differently definitely have seniors in 10 years. Justice for the refugees might be located to the other time saying these words. At the crucial moment before the middle yellow marshal and satellite, he had to use all there was no landed out Xiao Chen and emotions abilities. However, Xiao Chen had to share some of the pressure Xiao Chen killed other purple monkeys aside because Xiao Chen discovered that he could today manner when a martial emperor star golden development appeared in his trajectory, hidden developing at a high speed. This was the last resort facing the martial race and orderly. Ivan Xiaobai, now that Xiao Chen coward, it could severely injure and purple markets in exchange if you want to humiliate. This was the heavenly origin. You will have to do it for use the holy daughter person recognized little yellow feather on Xiao Chen's shoulder and sacrificed my life very busy and did not have much time. Since this was a legendary watch you humiliate to help your brother Xiao possessing the noble the pillar of flame soaring he could not break in Xiao Chen's body. The refinement process did not go smoothly. Everyone on the heavenly star Xiao Chen was not all of them showed rage on their faces as they looked at purple middle-aged man wearing more people gathered. There was no battle failure cultivators of heavenly Star Island, his ordinary residence out as well, and an intimidating pressure was emitted from heavenly origin. The purple-clad Marquis Blue Dragon came. Everyone was of one says that there are honored guests. The martial emperor was actually Neptune's when the voices merged together. The current foot of the mountain, hot-bloodedness. He had an expression of worship as the purple Marquis, a true character of the Western Sea. As long as he wanted to, he could easily kill them all. 11 not leaving a single one alive. The purple-clad Marquis' faction was the Marquis had never experienced such a situation in his life. Their talent was pretty good, and they would be able to pick out heavy responsibility was much stronger than the 9 put away the medicinal pill in his hand, and if the major people walked out of the darkness, they would threaten to die and disregard their own when regular people came to old men were all divine dragon. They had not expected that after when the old men appeared, so many people from heavenly feeling curious. The purple-clad Marquis pushed off the ground came with a scene of purple-clad Marquis something major and half to death. Shao-Chen was probably in trouble. When the another variable appeared in heavenly star immediately bowed primordial golden crow. Shao-Chen calmed his emotions walked in unable to say he discovered that even many people of mythical holy beings Marquis could not speak any nonsense. However, you should know what not an evil cultivator and probably that blue-robed emperor. However, the purple-clad situation were all aware that the king not merged their soul after he returned from starry heaven, so they focused on he shifted his gaze to Shao Chen. Purple Marquis had only wanted to come to the initial island to stand up for 100 years. Not only were their highlights different make him how can a major character like Senior have anything their strength was unfathomable. Senior has anything to say. Just as Marquis has to admit his all several gazes the purple-clad Marquis when they saw Shao-Chen you should know that newly martial men were startled. Even 10 times the number of people dared to speak to the greater heavenly emperor muttered to himself as long as the other party wanted to. If I purple-clad Marquis, no matter how many kills Shao-Chen in one not be able to stop the difference in strength as long as you apologize by 9 today's matter like clouds purple Marquis on the surface my word. They are here in the future. I will not be trouble to befriend you. Just take it that my son is not a skilled have good intentions. You are certain that they are here to kill you. They were greatly startled. The purple-clad Marquis would laugh when swept this, and those looking incredibly actually forced to take a Shao-Chen could more or less guess his expression got cold. No one would believe in a frosty voice. However, you are just seeking trouble by said calmly. Since I am not wrong, why should I apologize? The blue dragon word is too polite. The purple-clad Marquis expression has visited Emperor's Road. It is worthy of the Star Island. Shao-Chen tremble intensely as he spoke. Masters of the 9 ranks down like however, it is still the same when the purple-clad Marquis finished speaking. Many of the 9 realms of the great families along the way, heavenly Stario has adhered to as long as they had Emperor you will not change it with the whole monstrous even in death. And they trembled in fear. If you want to make a move, they could be considered one of the 9 ranks of the great families. It was true that purple Marquis couldn't kill Shao-Chen, most of the nearby but he could teach him a lesson. Chapter 11 did not have any accumulation of plume feather. There were inheritances would not exceed 1,000 years. Was indeed compared to the trouble 9 ranks of the great families like the house that he prepared. There was a huge feather at the other based on the vice should display to kneel down with him. They were merely hateful perfection quasi-emperor Marquis ruled in great disrespect. He had never felt based on himself inflicted like this before. It was not only because of the plume feather in Shao Chen's hand that he feared, but also because of Shao Chen's persistence, which purple-clad Marquis found extremely terrifying. Masters of the house in ancient times were already consummation blue-robed emperors many years ago. Shao Chen, among the previous sect master, became a greater heavenly emperor. This unyielding and unyielding character, there were still many supreme elders who were strong and had deep accumulation, only one who had ever done legacies for more than 10,000 years in the future. Could Chapter 11 after saying good as 3 times in a row, Shao Chen sat in the middle and picked up his teacup. He was no longer willing to waste time with Shao Chen here. Heavenly Star Island just went through a great calamity. And I do not have much to entertain you all with. The plume feathers circled around Shao Chen and absorbed the pillar of fire soaring into the skies were stunned. The darkness disappeared and sunlight shone down when the host picked up his teacup. Everyone from Heavenly Star Island revealed a smile when they heard Shao Chen's words. It was clear that he was impatient and did not beat around the purple-clad Marquis. Everyone could not help but turn putting away the plume feather. The spacious hall was quiet and peaceful. Since you know that you are in the wrong, I cannot let you take the corpse away for nothing. He knew that this group of people came with ill was about to make a move. He did not bother with pleasantries at all, in the damaged hall, straight to the point, old not playing by the rules. Even purple-clad Marquis had not noticed such a young age. The blue dragon king's temper is not the old man who spoke. What is the meaning of this? This was
sending off the
actually
guests with
another
tea.
greater heavenly
A
emperor
gray-robed
Wu.
old man
When
on the
Lan
right,
Xiaobai
furthest
and you
from
saw the
Xiao
old
Chen,
man and the young
asked with a
man's faces
superficial
clearly,
smile.
they revealed
Lan
expressions of
Xiaobai's
extreme
voice
joy.
projection.
That young
This
man
is the
was none other than the
sect's
Azura
vice
race's
sect
master,
master,
Qian Zongqiao.
After such a long
He is
time,
considered
he
a
finally
powerful
returned.
person,
He
especially
even
with
brought
his
a
palm
greater
strike.
celestial
He is
emperor
very
Wu of the
incredible
Shura tribe
and
with him.
famous in our Xi
Actually,
region.
if one thought
Xiao
about
Chen
it, it was
understood
easy
and
to
ignored
guess.
this person.
Apart from the
He
Azura
said
race,
indifferently,
who else
heavenly
would be able
star
to
island
appear
silently
silently
through
in
a
front
great
of Purple
calamity.
Marquis?
When
However,
Purple-clad
we also
Marquis saw
resolved
the
some
old man's
conflicts and
appearance,
took over
his
all the
expression
subsidiary
changed as he
islands.
recognized him.
I am very clear on what you are here for. The flying
Since you are
snow
not going
mountain
to say
manners,
it, I will
former
say it
first
for
rank
you.
on the Heaven Series
You are just here
ranking
to
of
probe out
assassins.
the situation.
The flying
to see if
snow
I,
mountain manor
Xiao
was a
Chen,
mysterious
can suppress
assassin
such a large
organization
area
in the Kunlun
then,
realm.
To see if
Any
you have a chance to
cultivator
get
could
some
become
benefits
an
for
assassin
yourselves.
there.
The
You could choose
expressions
to
of the
reveal
others
your
froze.
identity, or you
After
could choose
Xiao
to
Chen
hide
said
it.
what they were thinking,
Most people
they
were
all
afraid of
felt
trouble,
somewhat unnatural.
so they only used
Only
a code
the Fire
name.
Beacon sect's
Only a
vice
small
sect
number
master,
of people had
Qian
no
Zongqiao,
qualms about using
laughed
their real
loudly and
identity,
said, Blue
or they
Dragon
wanted to
King,
become
you must
famous
be
in the
joking.
first place.
Our Fire
These
Beacon
people were
sect is here
mostly
to
loose
discuss
cultivators.
cooperation.
Xiao Chen smiled
Completing
coldly and
assassin
asked,
missions of
what
a certain
kind of
difficulty
cooperation
would
earn them points
Naturally,
to upgrade their
it is
level.
a cooperation
Among
that is
them,
beneficial
the
to
Heaven
both
Series
sides.
assassin was the
Since
highest
Stellar
rank
Sky
in the
City was
flying
destroyed,
snow manor. It will
as long
require
as
a
one
lot of
became a
resources
Heaven
to
Series
rebuild
assassin,
it.
I am
Every
representing
time they took
the
action,
Fire Beacon
they would
sect
receive
to send
a
money to
sky-high
the
Blue
reward.
Dragon King.
However,
Right
if
after
one
Qian
wanted to become a
Zongqiao
Heaven
spoke,
Series
he waved his
assassin,
hand,
the most
and a
basic
pile of
requirement
black
was to
astral
have
coins
Emperor
flew
Wu's
out from his
cultivation.
facial ring.
After that,
The faint
one
light
had to go through a
overlapped,
series of
dazzling
tests
the eyes.
before one could be
There should
officially
be about
conferred the
5
title
million
of a Heaven Series
Here
assassin.
is 5 million
One of the
black
tests was
astral
to kill
coins.
5 Emperor
Our
Wu.
Fire Beacon
Just
sect
thinking
wishes
about
to
it made
purchase
one
black
feel that
flame
it was as
island from the
difficult
Blue Dragon
as
King.
ascending to heaven.
Qian Zongqiao
After
said
becoming
casually,
Emperor Wu and
wanting to buy
cultivating
black
the heart of
flame
an
island
emperor,
with 5
he was
million
already
black
very
astral
difficult
coins
to
was
kill.
simply daylight
It was
robbery.
not strange for
Bang,
Emperor Wu
bang.
to fall. Seeing that
However,
Qian Zongqiao
it was
had made his
extremely
intentions
difficult
clear,
to truly
the
kill
other
Emperor
8
Wu.
old men made
Right
their
now,
moves as well.
the number of Heaven Series
Piles
assassins
of black
in the
astral
entire
coins
flying
appeared in the
snow
hall,
mountain manor could be
reaching
counted on
45
2 million
hands.
black astral
Every
coins.
one of them was
This group of
unfathomable
people had a
in
startlingly
fear
large
in
appetite.
others. All that was
Ordinary
left
people
was the
would
main
not know
island
the
of Heavenly
identities
Star
of these
Island.
Heaven Series
They would have
assassins.
emptied out Xiao
They
Chen's
might not even
conferred
have
land.
heard of them.
45
However,
million
in
black
Emperor Wu's
astral
circle
coins was
once
already a
one's
huge
strength
sum.
reached a certain level,
Even the peak
this
blue
was no
robed
secret.
emperor would only
Due
have
to
so
the
much.
Azura race's
Some of the
innate
weaker
talent
ranked
and
space
space
sects
they
would
had
not
an
have
innate
more than this
advantage
sum.
in being assassins.
Some might even have less.
In reality,
Regular
many
outstanding
famous experts
youths
would
were
find it
Azura
hard
race
to remain
cultivators.
calm when they saw
This
such a
ordinary-looking old
Their
man
auras
before
would be
Xiao Chen
completely
was actually the
suppressed.
top rank
However,
of the Heaven
who was
Series
Xiao Chen?
assassin ranking.
He had even seen
could not
1
help but
billion
tremble
black
in
astral
fear.
coins in
The
the Dragon's
ordinary-looking
Gate's
Lan
treasure
Xiaofeng
trove.
smiled
This
faintly
amount
and
of money
said,
was like
I
a
have
drizzle
not made
to
a
him.
move in many years.
Xiao Chen wanted to use his wealth to suppress
the
others and occupy the island in his
heavenly
conferred
starry
land,
ocean
leaving
has heard of
others
me.
speechless.
How surprising.
This was a brilliant move.
The purple-clad
Even
Marquis
if the Bushin
smiled
Palace
coldly to
pursued
himself.
the matter,
Xiao
at least
Chen could
10
say that
Emperor
he had
Wus
used
had
money
died
to
at the
buy
hands
the
of this old man.
This would leave
in
others
Emperor Wu's
speechless,
circle,
and they
this
could only
fellow's
blame
name was
Xiao
even
Chen for
more
not living up
horrifying
to
than several
expectations.
sovereign martial
However,
emperors.
it was still
He
the
was
same
known
as
as
before.
the Life Reaper
Playing
Azura.
this move before the
Fortunately,
rich Xiao
this
Chen was
fellow
like
had
playing
not
house.
taken any missions
It was
for several
extremely
hundred years.
laughable.
Slowly
A trace of
fading out
mockery
of their circle.
flashed in Qian
However,
Zongqiao's eyes.
Lan Xiaofeng
To
had
think that
not
a brat
expected
with
to
no
meet the
hair on
person
his
that
mouth
Emperor
wants
Wu
to
did
compete
not
with
want to
us
meet in
veterans.
this rundown place.
He is really naive.
After not seeing Lan
Qian
Xiaofeng
Zongqiao
for
put
several
down his
hundred
teacup
years
and said
not only
indifferently,
did this fellow
I
not
believe
die,
that the Blue
but he
Dragon
even became
King
a
has
greater
never seen
heavenly
so much
Emperor
money
Wu.
before.
His cultivation
was
was
even
even deeper than Lan Xiaofeng's.
It is sufficient for you
when
to
Lan
rebuild
Xiaofeng
3
was a
heavenly
minor
star
heavenly
cities.
Emperor Wu.
When
He could
Xiao Chen
already
heard
threaten
this,
some
he could not
greater
help
heavenly
laughing
Emperor
softly.
Wus. Now that
Competing
Lan
with me in
Xiaofeng
wealth,
was a greater
what could be
heavenly
funnier
emperor
than
Wu.
this?
His
Money
cultivation
came
was
like a
even
river and
higher
went
than
like
Purple
water.
Clad Marquis.
Before obtaining the
Lan
Dragon's Gate's this
was
treasure
even
trove,
less of a match
the black
for him.
astral coins
the purple-clad
in Xiao
Marquis
Chen's hands
felt
were
very
already
depressed.
more than the pile
This
of money
matter
here.
was already in
Furthermore,
the bag.
after
First,
obtaining the dragon
Xiao
shade's
Chen's
treasure
unyielding
trove,
pride forced
Heavenly
him to
Star
give in
Island's
again and
accumulated
again.
wealth was
Now
no weaker
there was
than
this
the
line
9
ranks
Xiaofeng
of the great families.
If
Even
Xiao
if
Chen
included
wanted
that
to take the
spirit
corpse,
vein,
there would
even
be
the
many
Holy
variables.
Lands would not dare to
The
boast
purple-clad
so
Marquis
shamelessly
raged
before
in his
him.
heart.
What are you laughing
He looked
at?
at Lan Xiaofeng
When
and said,
Qin Zongqiao
"What
saw the
exactly do you
mocking
want?
smile on Xiao
This has
Chen's
nothing
face,
to do with
he
you,
felt
right?"
a strange rage. Lan Xiaofeng
Seated in the middle,
replied
Xiao
indifferently,
Chen said
"It's very
indifferently,
simple.
"I'm laughing
Since
at
you
your
admit that you
shameless
are in the
boasting.
wrong,
Then
You
apologize to my disciple on behalf of your son, and still dare to boast before me,
to this little
saying
brother.
that you want to buy Black
If you do not want to
Island.
apologize,
You say that I
fine.
have never seen
Just
money
throw
before.
down 10 million
I'm
black
afraid that
astral
you do not
coins.
know what true
Otherwise,
wealth is. You can forget about
how
taking your
arrogant.
son's corpse away.
How many black astral coins
Tyrannical.
can you take out?
Be it the many
You,
cultivators of
before
heavenly
Qian
Star
Zhongqiao
Island
could
or the
finish
few
speaking,
old men
his jaw
outside,
dropped.
they could
The
not
shock
help
in his eyes
exclaiming
was
in their
so
hearts
great that he could not
Lan
continue.
Xiaofeng's son died,
There was no
and
other
he came
reason.
to seek trouble.
Xiao Chen
Based on
waved
the
his
current
hand,
situation,
and piles
he would
of
have
black
to
astral
apologize
coins
to
appeared.
Heavenly Star Island instead.
There was a total of
This
9
mysterious
piles.
old man who
Each
suddenly
pile was
appeared
twice
was
the amount
truly
of black
tyrannical.
astral coins that
Lan
the 9
Xiaofeng,
ranks of the
don't
great
go
families took
overboard.
out.
There was no more,
Marquis
no less.
immediately
Xiao
became
Chen
enraged.
took out a total of
He did not
90
care
million
about
black
10 million
astral
black
coins
astral
alone.
coins.
If money
However,
can solve
he could not
everything,
afford to
then
lose
I will
face
buy your
like this.
entire fire
Huh.
beacon sect with
Indeed,
these 90
after
million
not
black
making a
astral
move for
coins.
1,000 years.
Do you agree?
The title of life
Xiao
reaping
Chen
Azura
shouted
is
as
just
he
a
stood up.
symbol in the
An
eyes of some
overwhelming
people.
aura pressed down
Lan
on Qian
Xiaofeng
Zhongqiao.
smiled faintly,
The 9
and
old
an
men
ancient
felt
black
stifled
coin
in their
appeared in
hearts.
his hand.
Their
That
thoughts
ancient
went
coin
wild,
seemed to have
and
a
they
life
found it
of its
somewhat
own.
difficult to
It
control
jumped around
themselves.
and spun around his
Originally,
fingers.
they wanted
This
to
was
use a
clearly
large
a
number
very
of black
simple
astral
action,
coins
but
to
it
crush
dazzled
Xiao
everyone,
Chen's will,
making them dizzy.
Who could have imagined
It was
that
only
Xiao
then
Chen
that
would
the
turn the
crowd
tables
noticed
on them?
this
This
unprepossessing
shocked them,
old man,
and they immediately
this
fell silent.
unprepossessing old man
Their
had a
auras
pair
were
of
completely
extremely
suppressed by
perfect
Xiao
hands.
Chen.
This was because
especially
when
the
the ancient
ancient
coin
Qian
jumped
Zhongqiao.
around,
No
his
one
face
felt
alternated
any energy
between red and
fluctuations
green.
at all.
Feeling
This
very
old
sullen.
man used his
When
nimble
faced with
fingers
Xiao
to
Chen's
perform
interrogation,
all
he
sorts of
felt
incredible
stifled,
actions,
not knowing how to
seeing the
reply.
mysterious
Damn
ancient
it,
coin jump
no
around.
matter what,
You have to sell
Marquis'
Black
heart
Flame
sank.
Island to my
According
fire
to
beacon
rumor,
sect.
when that
You
coin
have to
stopped
sell it
jumping
whether you
around,
want to or not.
Lan Xiaofeng would
Unable
make his
to think
move.
of anything to
According
say,
to an even
Qian
more
Zhongqiao
exaggerated
directly
rumor,
stated his
when
purpose,
one saw Lan
shedding all
Xiaofeng
pretense
spitting
of
the ancient
cordiality.
coin, one would no
Xiao
longer
Chen
think of
smiled
fleeing,
faintly,
as one would
becoming
not be
even
able
more
to.
at ease.
When the black
He
astral
slowly
coin
walked
stopped
down
jumping
and said
around,
calmly,
one would
"What's
no
wrong?
longer have the chance
Are
to
you trying to
counterattack,
force me to
as
sell
one
it?"
would no longer have the
Qian
chance.
Zhongqiao calmed
One
down
would just
and
quietly
remembered the
wait
sect
for death.
master's instructions.
In Lan Xiaofeng's
He should do
long
his
life
best
of killing,
not to shed all
countless famous
pretense of
people had
cordiality.
used their lives
At
to
the very
verify
least,
the
he should
veracity
not
of
do
this
so
rumor.
openly.
This was where
He
the
could not
title
leave
of
any
life
room for
reaping
discussion.
Azura came from.
After calming
Purple-clad
himself,
Marquis'
Qian
thoughts
Zhongqiao
raced.
said coldly,
In an instant,
"I don't
he
dare
thought
to.
of thousands
Our
of
fire
methods.
beacon sect is
However,
rather famous.
none of them could allow
We
him
never
to
do
escape
things like
unscathed
force.
from Lan Xiaofeng.
I have long heard of the
Bang!
Blue Dragon King's
With a flip of his
unparalleled
hand,
glory,
a pile of
instantly
black
defeating
astral coins
all the
appeared in the dilapidated
world
hall.
in one move
Then
at the Four Seas
purple-clad
hero
Marquis
gathering.
said, "Give
Do you
me
dare
my
to make a
son's
bet with this
corpse."
Qian? Lan
Xiao
Xiaobai,
Chen
who had been prepared for a long
"What do you
time,
want to bet?"
waved his hand
Qian
and
Zhongqiao
tossed out a
replied
coffin
coldly,
from his
"You
spatial ring.
instantly defeated all the outstanding talents of
Purple-clad
the world
Marquis
in
put
one
away the
move at
coffin
Four
without
Seas
even
hero
looking at it.
gathering.
Then
I will bet
he
with
turned
you in
around
one
and
move
tore
as well.
space,
We will
quickly
only
leaving this
compete
place.
in one move.
Lan
Whoever
Xiaofeng
is
who
at a
used only one
disadvantage will
coin
be the
to
loser.
force purple-clad
If you
Marquis
lose,
away,
you will
sell
smile
Black
faintly.
Flame Island to me.
Without anyone
Don't
seeing
say that
Lan
my fire
Xiaofeng
beacon
do
sect
anything,
is forcing
the
you to sell
mysterious
it.
ancient
If I
coin in his
lose,
hand
I will
vanished.
apologize.
As Huan
and the
Zhenqian
fire
watched
beacon sect will
purple-clad
not
Marquis
seek
leave,
trouble for Heavenly
cheers
Star
rang out
Island
in
anymore.
Heavenly Star Island.
The moment Qian
Even
Zhongqiao
Zhongqiao
said
strong
that,
as
the
purple-clad
crowd burst
Marquis
into an
suffered
uproar.
a great loss
Right
on
now,
Heavenly Star
Xiao
Island,
Chen was only
not
an
daring
early
to have
stage
any
great
other
perfection
thoughts.
blue-robed
This
emperor.
made every
As for
cultivator
Qian
who stood up
Zhongqiao,
for Xiao
he was
Chen
at the
feel
peak of the great
incomparably
perfection
proud.
blue-robed
There was
emperor,
a sense of honor
having
in
cultivated
everyone's
for
hearts.
100 years.
Blue Dragon
Furthermore,
King,
I
Qian
forgot something
Zhongqiao's
earlier.
palm technique
You
made
said
him
that you came
famous
to
among
visit
the
many
Heavenly Star
factions in the
Island.
nearby sea
In the
region.
end, you came empty-handed.
His palm contained
This is
a
not
boundless
very
sea
polite.
of fire and a
You must
horrifying
accept these
explosive
5
force.
million black
He had
astral
even
coins.
smashed a small
I'm
perfection
getting old,
blue-robed
and my
emperor to
memory is
death
bad.
with one palm
Blue
strike.
Dragon King,
Please
Dragon
don't mind
King.
me. Do you
I
dare
can
to
reluctantly
agree?
accept these
Seeing
5
that Xiao
million
Chen
black
was only
astral
an early
coins as a
stage
gift.
great perfection
This old man
blue-robed
will make
emperor,
up for it
Qian
when I pay a
Zhongqiao
formal
felt
visit
very
in the
confident.
future.
He
The
stepped
few
forward
old men
and pressed on.
who were preparing to
Lan
leave
Xiaobai
quickly
stopped
ran
Qian
over.
Zhongqiao and said,
Their faces
Xiao Chen,
brimmed with
don't
smiles
smiles as they left the 5 cultivation black technique, astral coins, martial technique, wanting Xiaochen and killing to moves them. He cultivates. These old men did not even give Xiaochen a chance to refuse. If he cannot after severely injure his opponent with one palm strike, he will quickly flee. That was then, and this was now. Had a very clear understanding of only made them feel information. So he in the future they could not afford to offend Xiaochen understood what Lan Xiaobai meant. when they saw how united the many cultivators of Heavenly Star Island were, unable to improve. Shao Chen dared to face off against a martial unconventional and how mysterious the other ways to raise their combat prowess. All of this pointed to Heavenly Star Island's Chen was one of those people. Everything showed that Heavenly Star his attention on how to just around his explosive power. Currying favor with Heavenly Star Island in advance was the right thing to do. Ended up being humiliated by Shao Chen remained calm. So he thought of this method to regain his momentum. Together with Lan Xiaobai, did not agree, he would for that tyrannical Azura race martial emperor. Zhongqiao would use this to spread the man's appearance. Furthermore, even if purple-clad Zhongqiao would continuously seek trouble for him in the future, and would come back sooner or later. He would be playing into Qian Zhongqiao's hand. He was scared away. Qian Zhongqiao would not lose out no matter what. Invited him, waving his hand, he would not dare to come casually. Told Lan Xiaobai not to say anything else. How come I have never heard you mention your master? There were so many vice sect masters watching. Xiaobai, if who was beside him resolve this matter well, he would be able to deter the surrounding factions, as he which would be of great benefit to Heavenly Star Island. It seemed like he thought of some bad news. Even though Shao Chen knew that Qian Zhongqiao was trying to goad him, he still had to break through to sovereign martial emperor. The most important thing was that Shao Chen was not afraid of competing in explosive power. Looking at it now, if it were a fair fight, he would drag it out. Breaking through to sovereign martial emperor was not only extremely dangerous, but there was also only one chance. It would be much more difficult to defeat Qian Zhongqiao. If one missed this chance, he would have to pay a higher price as well. A clash of moves was exactly what Shao Chen wanted. Qian Zhongqiao, who did not know that he had run into trouble, at the very least smiled and said, "How is it? Don't tell me that you, the bona fide Blue Dragon King, are afraid of an old man like me." Lan Xiaobai revealed a smile. I promise you. Shao Chen smiled faintly as he stared at Qian Zhongqiao. Those who failed to break through to sovereign martial emperor lose their lives. For seeking his own humiliation. The fact that Master survived discussions immediately broke out in the hall. As they spoke, the other 8 old men were all very surprised. And Lan After learning about Qian Zhongqiao and his cultivation, Shao Chen still chose to agree. The seniors helped the others withdrew and cleared out the black astral coins. The unprepossessing Lan Xiaofeng smiled and said, "The buildings in the hall all had restrictions. Even if I did not appear, you would have endure a battle at the level of the blue-robed emperor of the greater celestial emperor. As long as it was not a drawn-out battle, a young man who dares to uphold his own principles. Lan Xiaobai knew that he could not dissuade someone like you, so he sighed and retreated to the back as well. You were the one who stood up for Xiaobai in the Blue Dragon King truly lives up to his reputation as the Blue Dragon King. Furthermore, you are the one who took the blame. You are too young. I should be the one saying I'll tell you that the older, Tianqi and I are right. Xiaobai did not follow the wrong person. He raised his leg and took a step forward and said, He did not never believed it, but he arrived before Shao Chen in an instant. How could he be willing to follow someone of the younger generation? The instant now that I personally sent out his palm I have no choice but to believe it. A boundless sea of fire erupted. Was more concerned about breaking through to sovereign martial emperor. Chapter 1135. Master, it looked like there was no sovereign martial emperor going. The mysterious phenomenon that erupted was shockingly horrifying. Lan Xiaofeng could not hide their smiles. The power of the world turned into a sea of flames that looked like a real was wrong. There was probably something unexpected, unfathomable, and immeasurable. A martial emperor to be conferred based on the minute slow motion. One could see that every time Qian Zhongqiao's palm moved forward, not willing to talk about this matter, wave would rise from the sea. Thought for a while, wave after another, it failed. Overlapping. The sovereign's tribulation is boundless to stretch out his hand. Master only has 20 to 30 years left to live. When it came into contact with Shao Chen's palm, all the energy would erupt in an expressions changed drastically. Lived up to his name. They were lucky to have survived the failed with explosive power, but they did not expect that there would be such serious consequences. Lan Xiaofeng know that none of these old blue-robed emperors who had been even someone as strong as the Qing hundreds of years, the strongest person in the world. However, that was Thunder King. This cannot was not enough to defeat without becoming a martial god. With a thought, no one the dragon-shaped heavenly don't seal mind it too much. This the old man has lived heavenly laws in Shao Chen's body instantly stirred up. Xiaobai's voice sounded somewhat choked. The mysterious phenomenon not triggered by the 10,000 heavenly laws taking care of the power of the world at the same time. His tribulation. It was like 10,000 true dragons when he finally managed to meet Lan Tianji. He would receive 10,000 dragon swords. Cracks appeared in the buildings behind his heart. These buildings, which could withstand a strike from the blue-robed emperor, started cracking under the mysterious phenomenon triggered by Shao Chen. A sorrowful aura lingered in the great hall amid the scarlet flowers. Suddenly had a thought. As a blood moon sword, Shao Chen used the 1,000-year natural treasures that can increase your life's palm strike. the boundless sea of flames.
Lan Chaofeng smiled bitterly
The
and
instant
said,
the two
"This
palms
natural
clashed,
treasure that
the
can
roof
increase
of the
one's
great hall was
lifespan is
blown
something
off
that can
and
only be
shattered into
found
powder.
and not sought."
The destructive
When I was
power
young,
of the
I obtained a
aftershocks
few,
from the two
but I
palms
didn't pay
far
much attention
surpassed
to it and
everyone's
gave it to some old
expectations.
friends.
The buildings
Now I
that
can't
could
withstand
find
no
no
matter
matter
how
how the
hard I
blue-robed
try.
emperor's battle were
Some things
destroyed
weren't
in
worth
half
much,
by the two
and they
palms.
weren't even used
The
normally.
two were competing
However,
in explosive
when he really
power.
needed it,
From
he
start to
realized
finish,
that it was
their
something
moves
that could
were
only
clean
be
and
chanced
efficient.
upon.
Without
No
any
matter how
flourishes.
hard he searched,
The victor
he could
was
not
decided
find it.
in one breath.
Xiao Chen still
Xiao
had
Chen
two
didn't
longevity
move from
fruits
his
in his
original
hand.
position.
He quickly took one out and
retracted
said,
his palm,
"This is a
causing his
longevity
clothes
fruit.
and hair to
It can
slowly
extend
fall
one's
to the
lifespan
ground.
by 100
Qian
years.
Zongchao vomited
If
a
Senior
mouthful of
cannot
blood
find
and
a
took
better
100
natural
steps
treasure,
back before
you can
falling
consume
to the
this."
ground.
The
He
few
looked
of them
at Xiao
all
Chen
showed
angrily
joy
and
on their
coughed
faces.
out another mouthful of blood.
Unexpectedly,
He
Xiao
pointed
Chen
at
had
Xiao
such
Chen
a
and
treasure
cursed,
that could
"You
not be
tricked
sought
me."
after. Strictly
Xiao
speaking,
Bai
Xiao Chen
helped
did
your master
scam
keep
him,
it,
but he
I
was the
have
one
known
who
use for
picked
this
this thing.
trap. Anyway,
In the Four
Xiao
Seas
Chen
Hero
handed the
gathering,
longevity
he dared to
fruit to
challenge
Lan
all the
Tianji for him to
outstanding
pass to
talents
his
and
master.
chose to decide the
Xiao
victor
Chen
in
had
one
a
move.
longevity fruit
One of
that
the
could
main
give
reasons
others
was that
100
his
years of
forte was the
lifespan.
explosive
However,
power of
he
killer
could not
moves.
break free from the
In
nightmare
less
of
than
4
half a
years.
month after advancing
Lan
to great
Chaofeng
perfection,
received the longevity fruit from
Xiao
Xiao
Chen
Bai's
could
hand
instantly
and entered
drive
deep
10,000 heavenly
like he was
laws
about
with
to
a
make a
thought.
decision.
Releasing
After
and
a while,
withdrawing
he
them
said,
as he pleased.
"Originally, I
Qian
planned to come to
Zongchao
Heavenly
dared to
Star
compete
Island
with
to
Xiao
see
Chen
Xiao
in
Bai before
explosive
leaving,
power,
then go
wanting
look
to
for
decide
natural
victory
treasures
in
that
one
can
move.
extend one's lifespan.
If this was not seeking his
Since
own
you gave me a
humiliation,
longevity
what
fruit,
was? Then this
Lan
old man will
Xiaobai
heaved
heaved
a
a
sigh
sigh
of
of
relief. I can't keep
Then he
watching
stepped
others
forward
bully
and
my
said,
two disciples.
"Sect Master Qian,
Xiao
I
Chen
hope that you will
rejoiced in his
abide by
heart.
your promise."
Lan
The
Chaofeng's
people
words
of the
meant
Fire
that he
Beacon
agreed to
sect
stay
will
on
not
Heavenly
appear in the
Star
sea
Island.
region of
With an
Heaven
Azure
Star
Emperor
Island
who
in the
could force
future.
the
The
purple-clad
other fellow
Marquis to retreat,
cultivators heard it
there
for
was no
themselves.
need to worry about Heavenly
Qian
Star
Zongchao
Island
found it
safety.
hard to
Lan
express his
Xiaobai
bitterness.
and Lan Tianji
He had
were
not
equally
expected
happy
that
that
after
a
living
senior
for
like
several
Lan
hundred years,
Chaofeng could
he
remain
would
on
fall to
Heavenly
the
Star
hands of a
Island.
junior.
Master,
Even though
have you
Qian
heard about
Zongchao
what happened to
clearly held
Xiao
an
Chen?
absolute advantage,
It was rare
his
for Lan
expression did
Xiaobai
not
to meet
change
a
at all
bona
before
fide
the battle
martial
started.
emperor. It was like he
Furthermore,
was pretending.
Lan Chaofeng was
Qian
his
Zongchao
relative.
stood up and
He could
walked
not
over
help
to
but
the
ask
black
about
astral
Xiao Chen's
coins that
matter.
he had tossed out.
Lan Chaofeng
He prepared
nodded.
to put away
If
the
the Blue
black
Dragon
astral
King
coins
did not
and leave
advance
quickly.
to martial emperor
This
in 5
time,
years,
he had
only
completely 20
embarrassed
more
himself.
years to live.
Wait!
For some reason,
Xiao
this
Chen
news
shouted
set
coldly,
the Kunlun
stopping
continent
Qian
abuzz.
Zongchao's actions.
In nearly 1 month,
Qian
it
Zongchao
spread
demanded
throughout
angrily,
the entire Kunlun
"What do you
continent,
want?
causing a
I don't want to
huge
do
commotion.
anything."
Lan
This hall
Tianji
is
entered
riddled with
deep
restrictions,
thought,
and it is
advancing to
costly to
martial
build.
emperor in
You
5
even
years?
blew off the
That
roof,
might not be
and you want to
impossible.
leave for nothing?
Only 1
Xiao
year has
Chen said
passed,
unhurriedly.
and Xiao Chen already
You have to
reached
leave
great
behind these
perfection
5
blue-robed
million
emperor.
black astral coins.
In this age of
You are
geniuses,
twisting
any
words and
miracle
forcing
can
logic.
As
Xiao
someone
Chen
with
retorted
experience,
indifferently,
Lan
"That's
Chaofeng
right.
shook his head and
I am
said,
twisting
"That is
words
hard
and
to say.
forcing logic.
Whoever tries
As
to
long as
reason
there are
with me,
sufficient
Xiao
resources,
Chen,
will do
advancing
so.
from small
I will
perfection
do so
blue-robed
openly
emperor
and
to
openly.
great perfection
However,
blue-robed emperor
if
can
anyone
be done
tries to be
quickly.
unreasonable
Since
with me,
ancient
thinking
times,
of forcefully
Xiao Chen's
buying
current
and
cultivation
selling
or using
is
force
not
to bully
considered
others
very fast.
I, Xiao Chen,
Xiao Chen
will
nodded
be
and
even
said,
more
"I have
unreasonable
no
than
problems
them."
with resources.
Right after Xiao
Can
Chen
Senior
spoke,
give me
he
some
threw
pointers
another
on
palm
how to
strike.
merge my soul
Before
with the
Qian
Heavenly
Zongchao
Seal
could
and
reply,
form the vague
he
form
directly
of the
sent him
heart of an
flying,
emperor,
not giving him
the
any
great
face
tribulation
at all.
of wind
The
and
other
fire
8
was
old
still
men
far away.
immediately exchanged
Right now,
glances. Xiao Chen was
Xiao
most
Chen's
concerned about how to
and his
perfectly
words were
merge his
clearly
soul with the
directed at
heavenly
them.
seal. Just as these
Lan
old men were
Chaofeng
feeling
said,
uneasy,
given the comprehension
wondering if Xiao
abilities
Chen
of you
would snatch
outstanding
back their
talents,
black astral
this stage
coins,
is actually
Xiao Chen
not
smiled
difficult.
and said,
You can clear
"Everyone,
it sooner
are you
or
not going
later.
to take back your black
However,
astral
this requires
coins?"
a long time
Xiao
to
Chen
test it
smiled
out.
and said,
Then,
"Everyone,
when the
are you
conditions
not
are
going
right,
to take back your
success
black
will
astral
follow.
coins? Others will
When the
not
group
be
heard
able to
this,
give you
they
pointers."
immediately heaved
However,
a sigh
what you
of
lack
relief.
the most right now
Then,
is time.
they quickly took back
Lan
the
Xiaofeng's
5 million
words
black
hit the
astral
crucial
coins
point
that they had tossed
This
out.
stage could stop
When the group
90%
heard this,
of
they
blue-robed
immediately
emperors.
heaved a sigh of
However,
relief.
this
Then,
90%
they quickly
definitely
took back
did not
the 5
include the
million black
outstanding
astral
talents
coins
with
that they had tossed
comprehension
out.
abilities.
After these old
Naturally,
men took back
Xiao
their black
Chen was no
astral
exception.
coins, Xiao
What he
Chen
lacked
sent
was
out a palm
time.
strike. Is there any way for me to clear this stage quickly? Xiao Chen continued asking. Perhaps in history, were there any people who used a very short time to perfectly merge their soul with the heavenly seal? Lan Xiaofeng thought carefully and shook his head. As far as I know, there were no such people. However, I only know the history of the Kunlun continent. This oceanic world might not necessarily not have such a person. Xiao Chen felt somewhat disappointed. It looked like he could not count on anyone else for this stage. It was as Elder Qin said, he could only rely on himself. 10 days later, the news of purple-clad Marquis running into a wall at Heavenly Star Island quickly spread throughout the entire Western Sea. The scene of Shao Chen facing off with a martial emperor was described vividly, quickly spreading among the cultivators. A great perfection blue-robed emperor actually dared to face off with a martial emperor like purple-clad Marquis. In the end, he even managed to gain the upper hand. If not for many people verifying the authenticity of this news, no one would believe it. In the next 3 days, aside from the nearby sects, all the sects in the entire Western Sea came to visit. Even Qian Zongqiao, whom Shao Chen knocked back with a palm strike, came to apologize with heavy gifts. For a while, Heavenly Star Island became very prosperous. It finally gained a firm foothold in this chaotic heavenly starry ocean. It would no longer be seen as an outsider. There would always be people coming to covet those subsidiary resource islands. Shao Chen rejected all the social engagements and focused on cultivation, not letting these trivial matters disturb him. However, today, he received a piece of news that made Shao Chen come out of his closed-door cultivation room without any hesitation. Kim Taeho had returned from the Black Sea with the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce's huge merchant ship. When Shao Chen received news of Kim Taeho's return, he immediately came out of his state of silent cultivation. He had been tempted long ago and could not wait to go to the Black Sea. Shao Chen met with Kim Taeho in a pavilion. Shao Chen looked the same as before, adorned with jewels and glowing with health. He fanned himself with a golden folding fan, and the shrewdness of a merchant was written all over his face. However, Shao Chen noticed a faint black line on Shao Chen's forehead. It was like some kind of negative emotion had gathered together. Brother Shao Chen, you are finally back," Kim Taeho immediately said with a smile when he saw Shao Chen. The two chatted for a while. Then, Shao Chen asked about the Black Sea and the development of the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce. Finally, he asked about Ba Tu's situation. According to Kim Taeho's introduction, the Black Sea was not much smaller than the heavenly starry ocean. It was extremely vast, and the islands were even denser. According to legend, the islands of the Black Sea were originally a complete continent with many ancient factions and many legendary characters. Later on, for some reason, it shattered, resulting in the current situation. The islands were as densely packed as the stars in the sky. After tens of thousands of years of accumulation and transformation, the Black Sea had formed 5 major sea domains: the Blackwater Sea, the Black Wind Sea, the Black Cloud Sea, the Black Fire Sea, and the core sea domain, the Dark Sea. The Dark Sea had the richest resources in the entire oceanic world and the most fortuitous encounters. However, it also had the harshest natural environment in the entire oceanic world. The 2 words Black Sea lived up to its name. The entire sea domain was shrouded in boundless dark clouds all year round. The sky was always dark. No matter how piercing the sunlight was, it could not shine down. There was also a mysterious substance in the air that could affect a cultivator's mind, making them irritable, easily angered, and unable to control their murderous heart. Hence, the cultivators in the Black Sea all had fiery tempers. They were unreasonable, filled with hostility, and the entire sea domain was in chaos. However, it was easy to train experts here. Furthermore, they were all combat experts. When they fought, they would fight to the death. Just think about it. If a cultivator could maintain their original state of mind after living here for a long time and not be affected, just their mental state would surpass the cultivators of the other sea domains. As for the development of the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce, when Kim Taeho talked about it, his eyebrows danced with joy, talking about it without end. His initial capital of 100 million black astral coins had already multiplied to 50 million black astral coins. The momentum was excellent. However, after hearing Shao Chen's introduction of the 1 billion black astral coins in the Dragon's Gate treasure trove, Kim Taeho felt a blow to his confidence. Damn it. This fat lord has worked so hard for more than a year, but I still can't compare to you and a girl in 2 or 3 days. However, Shao Chen turned around and smiled. About that, can you give this fat lord some more capital? There are simply too many goods in the Black Sea. Our merchant ships are clearly not enough. Chapter 1139. Xiao Chen scolded jokingly, "Don't even think about it. Not only can I not give you black astral coins, but you can also use the resources that your merchant association earns to fund the construction of Heaven Dragon City." Kim Tae-ho opened his folding fan and said, "Hee hee. Just joking. To this fat lord, money is just a bunch of numbers. What this fat lord enjoys is the process." These words were not false at all. If Kim Tae-ho craved riches and honor, the wealth he had in the Sky Dome realm was enough for him to enjoy for several lifetimes. Xiao Chen said after some thought, "I will give you plenty of support as well. You can choose one of the subsidiary islands of Heavenly Star Island and make it an independent trading island for the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce. As for the merchant ships, after Mo Chen has settled down at Black Flame Island, I will sell all the king-grade warships I refine to your merchant association." When Kim Tae-ho heard this, his eyes immediately sparkled. A smile bloomed on his face as he said, "That is very generous. I will make a military pledge as well. Within 3 years, I will make the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce the top merchant association in the Western Sea." Xiao Chen waved his hand and said, "There is no need to make this military pledge. I believe in your ability. Our goal is not just the Western Sea but the entire oceanic world. We also want to charge back to the Kunlun continent. We will trample on whoever smashed your signboard in the past, making them remove their own signboards." When Kim Tae-ho heard this, he thought back to how his signboards were smashed. A vicious look flashed in his eyes. When Xiao Chen saw this, he frowned slightly and said, "Something is wrong with you. It seems like you cannot control your murderous heart." Kim Tae-ho nodded and said, "After I return from the Black Sea, I need to rest for a month. Otherwise, it will be hard to guarantee that my heart will not change. Aside from the native cultivators, outsiders do not dare to stay in the Black Sea for long. Of course, this does not include some cultivators who want to temper their minds." Xiao Chen thought for a moment, then took off the Neptune headscarf from his forehead and handed it to Kim Tae-ho. "This is the Neptune headscarf. You can wear it when you go to the Black Sea in the future. It will ensure that your heart will not change." Kim Tae-ho didn't take it. "From your tone, it sounds like we're going to the Black Sea soon. You should keep it." Xiao Chen said seriously, "My mental state has long since reached a state where it is impervious to ripples. The mysterious substance in the Black Sea is unable to affect me. Your cultivation is too far away from mine. Don't force yourself." The Neptune headscarf had endless uses, and Xiao Chen quite liked it. However, Kim Tae-ho obviously needed it more than him, so Xiao Chen didn't need to hide it. The Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce could develop so fast. The main reason was that DeBeo had opened up the Black Sea trade route and put in a lot of effort. In the end, Xiao Chen asked where Ba Tu was before letting Kim Tae-ho rest. After Kim Tae-ho left, Xiao Chen slowly walked out of the room and arrived at the summit. He looked down and saw millions of workers laying the foundation for the future Heaven Dragon City. It was bustling with activity. Under the arrangements of Mo Chen and Lan Xiaobai, although there were many people, there was not much chaos in commanding them. Even farther away, the Mo clan's people on Black Flame Island were anxiously laying the foundation for the Dragon's Gate's refining pavilion. Yu Chenxi and the others were personally managing the various resource islands. The development of the entire Heavenly Star Island was very orderly. Furthermore, the Azura Emperor, Lan Chaofeng, presided over the islands. Heavenly Star Island's future was bright. "I really can't bear to leave," Xiao Chen muttered with a nostalgic expression in his eyes. However, no matter what, he had to leave for now. He had to seek his own fortuitous encounter, to find a way to merge his soul with the Heavenly Seal quickly and smoothly. Xiao Chen wanted to fight against heaven. Everyone believed that he, Xiao Chen, could not become a martial emperor. They were waiting to see him make a joke of himself, waiting to see how he would fall from the peak 5 years later. All the opponents he had defeated in the past were looking on coldly, waiting for that day to come. Fortuitous encounters could not fall by themselves at home. Xiao Chen could only go out and search for them, risking his life in the most dangerous places. Indecisiveness would only lead to chaos. Xiao Chen closed his eyes and took 3 deep breaths. When he opened his eyes again, there was no longer any fear or hesitation in them. Xiao Chen pushed off the ground and floated down the mountain peak. Then he started to say goodbye to his old friends. After looking around, Xiao Chen finally found Emo Chen. At this moment, Emo Chen's room was filled with piles of sketches and all sorts of books and information. In the somewhat messy room, Emo Chen continued to painstakingly draw her sketches. She did not even notice Xiao Chen's arrival. Emo Chen casually raised her head and saw Xiao Chen outside. Pleasant surprise flashed in her eyes. She stopped what she was doing and smiled. "What's wrong? You finally have time to come to my place?" Xiao Chen said, "Make a guess. I'll give you 3 chances." Emo Chen slapped her forehead and smiled bitterly. "This time I really hope that I guessed wrong. However, you will have to leave in the end. Now that Heavenly Star Island is on the right track, you can leave in peace." Xiao Chen smiled. Indeed, he could not hide anything from the other party. There was no need for words between the two. After a short silence, Xiao Chen said, "Take care." Then he turned and left. "Don't forget. You promised me that you would personally see me remove my veil," Emo Chen said as tears glistened in her eyes. Xiao Chen's body paused slightly. However, he did not turn his head back. He smiled and said, "Don't worry. I, Xiao Chen, never go back on my promises. I will definitely live on and see you personally remove your veil. You are the top beauty of the Cloud Sea domain. If I don't see you, I will not be satisfied even if I die." After saying that, Xiao Chen left with large strides. Only his figure remained, slowly disappearing from Emo Chen's hazy vision. What was waiting for Xiao Chen in the mysterious Black Sea? Whether he could find the secret method to break through to great perfection of the blue-robed emperor? Everything was unknown. After taking this step, what awaited Xiao Chen was a new journey. On the path to emperor, I dare to fight against the heavens. From Heavenly Star Island to the Black Sea, the first stop was the Blackwater Sea, one of the 6 great sea domains. This sea domain was as large as the entire Western Sea. Riding the Flood Dragon war chariot, Xiao Chen got Ao Jiao to drive the chariot for him as he soared above the clouds. Inside the war chariot, Xiao Chen continued to cultivate, not wasting any time. A cold jade prayer mat floated on the soft bed in the war chariot. Xiao Chen sat cross-legged on it. 5 different colored lights slowly spun around him. Each clump of light gave off a different feeling. Massacre, death, destruction, despair, and grief. They were all different. That was right. These lights were the 5 thrones that Xiao Chen had collected. They contained 5 different high-level states. Ordinary people could be called geniuses as long as they had one state and raised it to a will. With 2, they could move unhindered. With 3, they could be called an absolute genius. However, Xiao Chen had 5. If he collected the Pain Throne and the Destruction Throne, he would have 7. There were too many. Xiao Chen did not intend to raise all of them to wills. That would waste too much time. Xiao Chen intended to wait until he had collected all 7 wills before merging them into the state of cycle. At that time, he would raise the state of cycle to the will of cycle. This was what he needed to do after he became Emperor Wu. As for now, he could not give up on these different states. He snapped his right hand. The roof of the war chariot slowly descended, and Xiao Chen sat cross-legged on the prayer mat. The scene before him suddenly opened up, and he looked into the distance. With a thought, the purple lightning talisman that represented the will of thunder sent out 4 beams of light, forming a seemingly invisible, sharp saber. This was the form of Xiao Chen's small perfection saber soul. The lightning-attributed energy in the saber soul had not faded yet, crackling with electricity. Xiao Chen stretched out his hand, and a strand of saber chi with electricity surrounding it shot out from his fingertip. It was like a bolt of lightning tearing through the sky in the blink of an eye and striking a rank 8 spirit beast 5 kilometers away. The saber chi with the lightning-attributed energy first chopped the spirit beast in half. After that, the lightning-attributed energy exploded, turning the remaining 2 halves of the spirit beast's corpse into charcoal. When the wind blew, the charcoal turned into black powder. This was the additional might of the lightning-attributed energy infused into the saber soul. In the end, the standard of a bladesman's strength was still the saber soul. Pu Si. Little Yellow Feather, who was on Ao Jiao's back, was not to be outdone. It opened its mouth and spat out a golden flame, directly burning the other rank 8 spirit beast to ashes. Then, it spread its wings and looked at Xiaochen cockily. "Be good, Little Yellow Feather. Xiaochen is testing his moves. Don't disturb him," Ao Jiao, who was riding on the deep-sea flood dragon, said with a smile as she rubbed Little Yellow Feather's head. Xiaochen smiled and tossed an astral core to Little Yellow Feather. Then he started testing his moves. These were all high-ranked states. Although they had not been raised to wills, they were of a higher grade than ordinary flames and ice. Xiaochen planned to merge these different wills with his Saber Soul. The Saber Soul would form the Massacre Saber Soul, the Destruction Saber Soul, the Despair Saber Soul, and the Death Saber Soul. When facing different enemies, the Saber Soul could be chosen accordingly. Sometimes, Xiaochen's strongest Lightning Saber Soul might not be effective against some opponents with startling defenses. However, these other Saber Souls would catch him off guard. When Xiaochen absorbed the light of the state of death into his sea of consciousness, his mind was immediately filled with all sorts of emotions of death. After a while, Xiaochen adjusted to them. Xiaochen's eyes turned gray, representing death. He flicked out a strand of saber chi from his fingertip. This time, the speed of the saber chi was significantly slower. One could clearly see the trajectory of the saber chi as it tore through the sky. When the saber chi struck a rank 8 spirit beast 5 kilometers away, it did not split it in half. However, when the saber chi penetrated deep into it, the power of death slowly seeped out. The vitality of the spirit beast's body slowly dissipated. A moment later, its withered body fell from the sky. Xiaochen entered deep thought as he muttered, "Its might is much weaker than the Lightning Saber Soul. However, it is also due to the lack of compatibility. After familiarizing myself with it, when I meet some special opponents, I can achieve unexpected results." Following that, Xiaochen tested the might of the various Saber Souls. Then he connected them with one another, tempering their compatibility. With the continuous tempering, he could be considered to be cultivating his Saber Soul. A 40% comprehended Saber Soul was rather frightening among the blue-robed Emperor's Saber Souls. Most bladesmen could barely raise their saber intent to the level of a Saber Soul. They could not even condense a physical form. Chapter 1140. However, there was still a lot of room for improvement. Cultivating more would not be bad for his strength. After all, Xiaochen was a bladesman by nature. His Saber Soul was the most important. 7 days later, the clouds below the Flood Dragon War Chariot slowly dimmed until it was completely dark. Xiaochen knew that he had reached the edge of the Black Sea. The Blackwater Sea should not be far away. After thinking for a while, Xiaochen put away the Flood Dragon War Chariot and prepared to travel the rest of the way alone. After all, there were many experts in the Black Sea. This chaotic and resource-rich sea region was very tempting. There were countless experts here. Xiaochen was far from strong enough to move about freely. It was best to keep a low profile. According to the information that Kim Tae-ho obtained, Batu was not in the Blackwater Sea but in the Dark Sea, the core of the entire Black Sea. Hence, Xiaochen did not intend to stay in this Blackwater Sea for long. If nothing unexpected happened, he would just treat it as a place to stay and familiarize himself with the environment of the Black Sea. After piercing through the clouds, Xiaochen, who was in the air, immediately felt the various negative emotions that came with his breathing: irritation, rage, massacre, and many others. His heart did not change. His Saber's soul flickered, and Xiaochen used his strong willpower to eliminate all these negative emotions, leaving none in his body. Dang, ding, ding. Before Xiaochen landed on the surface of the sea, the sounds of fighting entered his ears. Squinting, Xiaochen discovered that several merchant ships of a merchant association were being attacked. The merchant group was rather large, and the merchant ships were all Sage-grade. There were 10 of them, and the flagship was a King-grade warship. However, the situation was not good. The densely packed small pirate ships surrounded the entire merchant group. Figures radiating baleful auras leaped and charged at the merchant ships. A ferocious-looking pirate was currently ganging up on a middle-aged man on the merchant ship's flagship, gaining the upper hand. Xiao Chen had heard about the chaos of the Black Sea long ago. However, he had not expected to run into a merchant group being robbed right at the edge. After observing for a while, Xiao Chen concluded that this group of pirates was not very strong. The pirate leader fighting on the flagship was only as strong as the great perfection blue-robed emperor. A moment later, he made his decision. He wasn't the kind of idiot who would rush over to save a bunch of strangers regardless of the situation when he saw something like this. However, if it was within his power, he would still lend a helping hand. After all, this group of robbing pirates did not look like good people. Xiao Chen's figure flashed. His white robes looked spotless as he carried the lunar shadow saber and landed in the sky above the flagship. When the two sides saw the sudden appearance of this person, their expressions changed at the same time, and they both stopped fighting and retreated. The difference was that the burly middle-aged man revealed an expression of surprise, whereas the leader of the island was filled with killing intent and endless anger. The pirate leader wielded a heavy scarlet dragon-tooth saber. He looked at Xiao Chen and said, "Where did this brat come from? Do you know the rules of the Black Sea? If you see pirates robbing and dare to help, you will be wanted by all the pirates." Xiao Chen was slightly taken aback, but he laughed in his heart. Interesting. In other places, pirates were wanted, but in this place, the rules were reversed. The pirates held the upper hand. To think that they could order others to be wanted. Little brother, this is indeed the rule of the Black Sea. Once you are wanted, you will find it hard to move anywhere in the 5 seas. It is good that you have the intention. Don't get yourself involved. The middle-aged man could tell that Xiao Chen's cultivation was not low. Given his young age, he should be an outstanding talent of a holy land or a noble clan. Since the middle-aged man did not know the rules of the Black Sea, he sighed and tried to persuade Xiao Chen to leave. "Since you know the rules, then scram," the pirate leader said rudely with a cold smile. Xiao Chen said indifferently, "This is the first time I've heard of this rule. However, if you die, I'm afraid we won't be able to send out the wanted posters." The pirate leader laughed loudly and said, "You are already a great perfection blue-robed emperor at such a young age. You must be the successor of a large faction or a holy land. I saw that it was not easy for you to cultivate, so I was being more polite to you. To think that you became so arrogant. Don't treat the Black Sea as some other place. I will only say one thing to you. The blue-robed emperors here are not to be trifled with." The pirate leader shouted coldly and charged at Xiao Chen while holding the dragon-tooth saber. The pirate leader's eyes turned scarlet. Everywhere he passed, wolf howls resounded. A huge scarlet wolf image appeared behind him. Unexpectedly, this pirate leader was a fiend race member. His bloodline seemed to have mutated. He was not a pure heavenly wolf and was even more powerful. This saber strike had an overwhelming aura, and the wolf howls were even more horrifying. It was incredibly ferocious. Just the baleful aura that flowed out was enough to make one tremble in fear. Ding. No one saw how Xiao Chen moved, but there was a melodious dragon roar. He instantly drew the lunar shadow saber and blocked the dragon-tooth saber flying at him. The dragon roar clashed with the scarlet wolf howls. Unexpectedly, their auras were equal. The other party's scarlet wolf was not intimidated by Xiao Chen's dragon might. Xiao Chen's eyes lit up. It was said that in this oceanic world, the Black Sea was the best place for the blue-robed emperor to cultivate. In order to strengthen themselves, the blue-robed emperors of various places would come here for experiential training. Furthermore, an even greater number of fugitives resided in the Black Sea all year round, making the situation of the Black Sea even more terrifying. The blue-robed emperor, which was rarely seen in the outside world, could be said to be a common sight here. Now, it looked like the rumors were true. This great perfection blue-robed emperor before him gave Xiao Chen a very different feeling. Compared to the great perfection blue-robed emperors raised in sects, this one was much more powerful. However, the more powerful, the better. That way, it would be more challenging. Xiao Chen turned around and pulled out the lunar shadow saber. At the same time, he executed flawless bright moon. A gentle moonlight appeared on the slender saber. You have some strength. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant. The pirate leader laughed strangely and spun around in the air. With every spin, he sent out a saber strike. Every time the saber light flashed, a wolf image would appear. In the blink of an eye, the pirate leader had spun around 100 times. After sending out 100 saber strikes and 100 wolves, the pirate leader completely suppressed Xiao Chen's flawless bright moon, forcing Xiao Chen to continuously retreat 100 steps. Brat, now you know that there are some problems that you should not bother with. However, there is no medicine for regret in this world. Defeat for me and hunt the world. The pirate leader laughed maniacally and suddenly revealed his true form. He turned into a scarlet wolf that stood upright and roared ferociously. Then he swung his saber vigorously, and hundreds of wolf-shaped saber lights immediately flew at Xiao Chen. The sharp aura was like a pack of wolves on a hunt, galloping across a boundless grassland with an irresistible force. As for Xiao Chen, he was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and discovered the extraordinariness of this move. Every scarlet wolf was completely solid. Furthermore, there seemed to be qi and blood flowing in the scarlet wolves' bodies, surging with essence. Every one of them continuously absorbed the berserk massacre qi unique to the air of the Black Sea. With every second that passed, their bodies grew larger. By the time they arrived in front of Xiao Chen, each and every one of them was as big as a mountain. Their bodies had mutated to an extremely terrifying extent. Their fur had turned into sharp blood blades, and their eyes were scarlet red. It's over! Seeing the pack of wolves swallow up Xiao Chen, the middle-aged man from the merchant group, the blue-robed emperor, revealed a bitter expression. He was somewhat surprised that this mission would be so difficult. It looked like not only would he fail, but he would also implicate an outstanding young talent. Xiao Chen had just entered the periphery of the Blackwater Sea when he ran into the infamous Blood Wolf pirate group. He did not know what goods they were transporting this time. Boom! Just when the middle-aged man thought that Xiao Chen, surrounded by the pack of wolves, would be devoured until not even his bones remained, 100 bolts of intense lightning suddenly shot out from the pack of wolves. A terrifying saber intent could be felt in every bolt of lightning. This is a saber soul. The saber chi has its own soul and also contains the might of the will of thunder. Otherwise, the saber intent that erupts out would not be so horrifying. The middle-aged man muttered to himself, his eyes filled with shock. What kind of genius bladesman is this? This saber soul is probably no weaker than the famous bladesmen of the older generation. Miserable howls resounded, and the pack of wolves howled in pain. Their momentum immediately shattered. Xiao Chen did not stop moving, continuing to attack, preparing to break this move in one go. Strands of azure dragon-shaped saber chi flew out of Xiao Chen's body. Eventually, 18 blue dragons surrounded Xiao Chen. The dragons roared ferociously, causing the sky to change color. Lightning flashed, thunder roared, and all sorts of mysterious phenomena flashed. Subduing dragon profound slash. When Xiao Chen chopped out, the 18 blue dragons merged into the saber, forming an azure saber light that reached the sky. The hundreds of blood wolves injured by the electric saber chi were immediately chopped into pieces by this horrifying saber light, like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves. Blood could be seen connecting the blood wolves' bodies. After the electric light exploded, the blood wolves were completely severed. This was already beyond the scope of a mysterious phenomenon. Xiao Chen guessed that the pirate leader's world hunt the pirate group probably infused his chi and blood into the saber technique. If an ordinary person executed this move, they would die from blood loss before they could finish executing it. Only the pirate leader, who could turn into a blood wolf, could execute this move. The saber light did not lose momentum, continuing to hack at the pirate leader. The pirate leader held his saber horizontally to block. However, the might of Xiao Chen's move was very great. It contained all the mysteries of the dragon subduing slash. How could the pirate leader, who had lost a large amount of chi and blood, block it? Kasi! The dragon-tooth saber instantly broke. The saber light continued to hack down, chopping the pirate leader in half. However, the pirate leader was not dead yet. The two halves of his body were still connected by blood, doing their best to merge back together. Given time, the two halves might even be able to merge back together. This life form is really tenacious. However, since you already made a move, I cannot let you live. Executing Thunder Dragon steps, Shao Chen arrived on a dragon amid lightning flashes and thunder roars. He infused the power of the lightning saber soul into his saber and hacked at the pirate leader's body 9 times in a row. After the 9 saber strikes, electric light burst out, and the pirate leader's body turned into charcoal. He could no longer revive. With their leader killed, the remaining pirates immediately retreated in a fluster. The crisis of the merchant group was temporarily resolved. Shao Chen sheathed his saber and suddenly frowned. He felt a gaze filled with heavy killing chi from 50 kilometers away. Even from 50 kilometers away, it made his hair stand on end. Chapter 1141. The owner of this gaze was at least a consummation blue-robed emperor. Shao Chen's heart sank and his thoughts raced. He had a bad feeling that his actions this time had provoked some trouble. The goods that this merchant ship was carrying might not be ordinary goods. Actually, Shao Chen should have thought of this long ago. Even though there were many blue-robed emperors in the Black Sea, they should not have run into a great perfection blue-robed emperor pirate the moment they arrived. The problem still lay with the ship. Thank you for your help, young hero. I am very grateful. I am very grateful, the middle-aged blue-robed emperor said with a smile as he flew over to Shao Chen's side. Shao Chen's expression did not change. He said calmly, "It is within my capabilities. If I can, I will help. There is no need to be so polite. I have a presumptuous request. Young hero should be going to Blackwater City, right? How about we travel together?" The middle-aged blue-robed emperor asked in anticipation. Blackwater City was located on Blackwater Island. It was the largest city in the entire Blackwater Sea. There were no less than 100 million people in the city. Blackwater Island was astonishingly large. Although it was an island, it was no smaller than a nation in the Sky Dome realm. Since Shao Chen had arrived at the Blackwater Sea, he naturally could not avoid going to this large city to broaden his horizons. However, Shao Chen did not wish to have anything to do with this merchant group. Shao Chen looked at the ship. He was not in a rush to reply. Instead, he asked, "Might I know what goods your ship is carrying?" The middle-aged blue-robed emperor's gaze paused for a moment. His expression changed unnaturally as he replied, "Nothing much. It is just some items that the Black Sea urgently lacks. Sunstone, secret silver, black gold, and the like." When Shao Chen saw the other party's expression, he smiled and asked, "Is that so?" The middle-aged blue-robed emperor sighed and said, "Very well, I'll be honest. My merchant group received a large order. I do not know what it is exactly, but it is very large. There are a lot of them, and it took several large ships to barely fit them all. I didn't expect to run into trouble as soon as we entered the Black Sea. I would like to hire you as a guard for our caravan." Shao Chen decisively refused. "Don't worry, nothing will happen to the goods on the ship. There should be a hidden expert on your ship whose strength is a level higher than mine." The middle-aged blue-robed emperor asked curiously, "A master? Why didn't I know about this?" The middle-aged blue-robed emperor found it strange that Shao Chen knew better than him whether there were any experts on his ship or not. Moreover, Shao Chen was so sure about it. "Young hero, you must be joking," the middle-aged blue-robed emperor said doubtfully. Shao Chen muttered to himself. He was very sure of his guess. If there were no experts on the ship, it would be hard to explain. Why didn't that mysterious person from 100 miles away personally make a move and snatch away the goods that they wanted? There had to be someone on the ship that mysterious person feared. That was why he did not dare to make a move. That was the only explanation. Shao Chen did not answer the middle-aged blue-robed emperor's question. He glanced at the merchant ship and said in a neutral tone, "Sir, since you are on the merchant ship, why don't you show yourself and let this uncle feel at ease?" "Ha! Young people really have good eyes. If I still don't show myself, I will look bad." Amid loud laughter, a white-haired old man with a healthy complexion walked out of the ship's hold. The middle-aged blue-robed emperor said in shock, "Senior Ma." The middle-aged blue-robed emperor recognized this person. He was an old man that his employer had left behind to look after the goods. This old man was merely a superior-grade martial sage, not even comparable to the middle-aged blue-robed emperor. How could this old man be an expert? Xiao Qun sent out his mental energy from his sea of consciousness. Indeed, Senior Ma was only a superior-grade martial sage. However, the instant Xiao Qun withdrew his mental energy, Senior Ma gave off an aura as deep as the sea. It was the blue-robed emperor's consummation cultivation. Furthermore, this was not the blue-robed emperor who cultivated an earth-ranked cultivation technique. What he cultivated was the peak heaven-ranked cultivation technique. Otherwise, his aura would not be so terrifying. The instant Senior Ma appeared, the middle-aged blue-robed emperor nearly fell from the sky. Senior Ma did not look at the middle-aged blue-robed emperor. Instead, he went straight to Xiao Qun and asked doubtfully, "Young man, which holy land are you from?" "That's not right. You use a saber. There does not seem to be any holy scions who use a saber. Could you be a disciple of the Northern Sea Saber Sovereign, the Inferno Saber Sovereign, or the Ice Saber Sovereign?" At first glance, Senior Ma eliminated Xiao Qun from the list of local cultivators of the Black Sea. This was because Senior Ma had lived in the Black Sea for hundreds of years. He knew the information of the peak experts and young outstanding talents of the various sea domains of the Black Sea like the back of his hand. None of them matched Xiao Qun's description. In that case, Xiao Qun could only be a cultivator from the outside world. Senior Ma did not know much about the cultivators of the heavenly starry ocean, so he could only make a rough guess. Xiao Qun smiled and said, "Old sir, there is no need to guess. I come from the Kunlun continent." "Oh, the Kunlun continent? In that case, you must be a disciple of the powerful saber sovereign, Wu Shaoyun. My clan's ancestor once had a friendship with the powerful saber sovereign, Wu Shaoyun." Senior Ma suddenly understood. He immediately determined Xiao Qun's identity. He had to be the disciple of the saber sovereign, Wu Shaoyun. Otherwise, how could Xiao Qun cultivate a 40% comprehended saber soul at such a young age, comparable to some of the older generation bladesmen? "How about it? Since you are going to Blackwater City as well, let's go together," Senior Ma invited. Xiao Qun did not comment on Senior Ma's guess. He shook his head and said, "Sorry, I'm used to traveling alone. I'm afraid I cannot agree to Senior's request." It was clear that this ship carried extraordinary goods and had great implications. How could Xiao Qun continue to wade into such murky waters? That is somewhat unfortunate. I have an invitation here. If young master is free, you can come to our Jadeite Mountain Manor on the 15th of next month to attend a ceremony. Senior Ma did not insist. He took out an invitation from his sleeve and handed it to Xiao Qun. Xiao Qun received it and took a look. The invitation did not specify what ceremony it was, making it seem somewhat mysterious. Xiao Qun knew a little about the Jadeite Mountain Manor. It was rather famous in the Blackwater Sea, not because the current manor lord was very strong. Instead, it was because the current manor lord's grandfather was a sovereign martial emperor known as the Jadeite Sovereign. Although the Jadeite Mountain Manor was only a rank 8 faction, it was very popular in the Blackwater Sea. Even some of the peak 9 ranks of the great families had to give the Jadeite sovereign a lot of face. However, as far as Xiao Qun knew, this Jadeite sovereign was not ambitious and had a rather gentle personality. The Jadeite sovereign was not very interested in developing his faction. He spent most of his time traveling the starry heavens and rarely returned to the Jadeite Mountain Manor. However, no matter how gentle the Jadeite sovereign was, he was still a sovereign martial emperor. His fame was sufficient to intimidate everyone. As Xiao Qun watched the merchant group move further away, he entered deep thought. Then, he put away the invitation and muttered to himself, "I just made a move, and I already ran into such trouble." A faction that even dares to offend the Jadeite Mountain Manor definitely has an extraordinary background. As for the middle-aged blue-robed emperor on the merchant ship, he felt so much regret that his intestines turned green. In a moment of greed, he ended up getting involved in a conflict between a large faction. Even if he could make it to Blackwater City, he might not be able to leave the Black Sea alive. Before the Heavenly Sea, Xiao Chen arrived at a small island. He prepared to rest for the night before continuing on his way. What he saw and heard on the island gave him a deeper understanding of the chaos of the Black Sea. Along the way, Xiao Chen ran into 10-odd fights. In every fight, someone would die. Human life was as cheap as grass. This was a place where one's fists did the talking. This was the undisguised law of the jungle. Most of the fights were trivial matters. Often, the slightest disagreement would lead to a fight. After living in the Black Sea for a long time and absorbing the mysterious substance in the air, one would become extremely irritable and find it hard to control one's heart. During this period, Xiao Chen also ran into some trouble. After he decisively killed a superior-grade martial sage, the problem lessened significantly. After arriving in the city, Xiao Chen found an inn to stay in. After taking a hot bath, Xiao Chen sat cross-legged on the bed and prepared to cultivate. The instant Xiao Chen closed his eyes, all sorts of mockery entered his ears. There was the sound of people fighting over the loot, men and women moaning in the same room, and miserable screams on the streets. It was very noisy, making it hard for him to calm down. After taking a deep breath, Xiao Chen treated this as a test to temper his mental state. Then, he circulated his energy and continued cultivating. Xiao Chen's cultivation of the Purple Thunder Divine Incantation's 7th layer was almost complete. He only needed to break through 5 more meridians and undergo a lightning tribulation before he could advance to the 8th layer. For the entire night, Xiao Chen carefully tried to see if he could break through one of the bottlenecks. When the sky brightened, Xiao Chen immediately paid his bill and left, continuing his journey unhurriedly. Naturally, his destination was the largest city in the Blackwater Sea, Blackwater City. After leaving the island, Xiao Chen flew 70 or 80 kilometers close to the surface of the sea, cautiously scanning the surroundings with his spiritual sense. Finally, he stopped and landed on a protruding reef in the sea. Xiao Chen focused his spiritual sense into a line and looked carefully at the target he discovered. After a while, he withdrew his spiritual sense, and his expression turned strange. Unexpectedly, he met someone familiar here. Furthermore, it was someone he had not expected. 50 kilometers away, Yu Bingyun and a man strolled on the surface of the sea. This man was called Xia Luo, a descendant of a legendary martial emperor of the Black Sea, the Thunderfire Sovereign. He possessed startling cultivation and was a rather famous outstanding young talent. Historically, the Thunderfire Sovereign had once unified the Black Sea. Unfortunately, he only managed to do so for less than 100 years before his death. As a result, the Xia clan's strength plummeted. Now, it could only be considered one of the 9th ranks of the great families that was pretty strong, far from being a holy land. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense caught Xia Luo repeatedly trying to curry favor with Yu Bingyun, trying to find an opportunity to say such words. Unfortunately, Yu Bingyun maintained a distance, preventing him from doing so. Bingyun, what is your purpose? Ever since Xia Luo accidentally met Yu Bingyun on the sea, he had been shocked and immediately latched onto her, intending to use his charm to subdue this holy daughter from the heavenly starry ocean. Unfortunately, it did not seem to have any effect. Yu Bingyun said very politely, "Young Master Xia, I've said it before. It would be better to address me by my full name. My current destination is Blackwater City." What a coincidence! My destination is also Blackwater City. It looks like we can travel together, Xia Luo immediately said. Actually, his destination was not Blackwater City but a remnant at the bottom of the sea. Yu Bingyun smiled helplessly. Naturally, she knew where the coincidence came from. However, it did not matter. If the other party wanted to follow, then let him. There would always be a way to shake him off. Chapter 1142. Just at this moment, a group of pirates riding mutated beasts galloped on the surface of the sea. They rode the water from afar, kicking up huge waves. Then, they appeared as fast as lightning and blocked the two's path. Pirate robberies happened every day in the Black Sea. It was not strange at all. On the reef, Xiao Chen thought, This group of pirates is pretty strong. They should be able to force out some of Yu Bingyun's true strength. However, the situation did not develop as Xiao Chen expected. When the Thunder Fire Sovereign's descendant, Xia Luo, saw this group of pirates riding mutated beasts, he rejoiced in his heart. He had been worrying about not having a chance to show off. This group of pirates really came at the right time. Hiding the joy in his heart, Xia Luo put on a furious expression and said, "Bunch of trash. Quickly scram. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." Where did this by face come from? Are you trying to be a hero saving a damsel in distress? Kneel and beg for mercy, and we can spare your life. However, you have to leave this woman behind. That's right. We are not interested in men. If you want to live, then scram. The group of pirates guffawed, ignoring Xia Luo's words. They all looked at Yu Bingyun with glowing eyes. In their eyes, Yu Bingyun was like a fairy. Her figure was exquisite and exquisite. She had an extraordinary air, and her skin was like rosy clouds. Her beautiful eyes were like limpid autumn waters, giving her a boundless charm. The more the mighty pirate leader looked at Yu Bingyun, the more tempted he became. Eventually, he could not help roaring, "Kill this by face and snatch this woman back." Xia Luo stepped forward and blocked Yu Bingyun. He said, "Bing, leave these pieces of trash to me. Don't dirty your hands." Right after Xia Luo spoke, he formed hand seals and quickly threw a palm strike. Clumps of profound flame imprints flew into the bodies of the charging pirates. The profound flame imprints seemed to be incorporeal. In an instant, they entered the bodies of these pirates. No matter how they tried to block them, it was useless. These pirates found this strange. However, after they circulated their energies and discovered that there were no major problems, they continued charging over with sinister smiles. Acting all mysterious. "Watch this old man tear you apart." Dozens of pirates leaped into the air and charged towards him. If he was surrounded, he would be in big trouble. Xia Luo smiled coldly and said, "Reckless. You don't even know my Xia clan's Thunderfire mark?" With a loud shout, Xia Luo pointed a finger at the sky. A bolt of lightning streaked across the sky, followed by the sound of thunder. The instant the thunder boomed, the body of the martialist who had been imprinted by the fire seal instantly turned red. Then, there was a loud explosion. His body was like gunpowder, exploding until there was nothing left of his flesh and blood. It was a tragic sight. The rumbling thunder was like the fuse of dynamite. In an instant, more than half of the pirates surrounding Xia Luo were killed. The remaining people who did not die were frightened out of their wits. Xia Luo forced them to retreat repeatedly in a sorry state. The pirate leader on the exotic beast cried out inwardly. He hurriedly said, "Retreat." The many pirates who had long lost the will to fight immediately retreated like a receding tide, disappearing from the duo's vision. Xia Luo was in high spirits, a pleased smile on his face. He turned his head and asked, "Bingyun, are you all right?" Yu Bingyun's expression did not change at all. She said politely, "Young Master Xia, it is better to address me as Yu Bingyun. Many thanks for helping out earlier." Xia Luo's expression turned somewhat awkward. He said, "It's good that you are fine. This journey is very dangerous. Pirates come and go frequently. However, with me around, I can guarantee Miss Yu's safety." On the reef, Xiao Chen felt somewhat disappointed. If Xia Luo had not made a move, Yu Bingyun would have had to save herself. Xiao Chen would have been able to unravel the other party's mysterious veil and see how strong she was. However, this Xia Luo's martial technique also piqued Xiao Chen's curiosity. After imbuing the thunder fire mark into the martialist's body with thunder, it was incomparably profound. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen gained some understanding of the principles of this thunder fire mark. After he figured it out, he realized that it was not as miraculous as it looked. The fire mark, which looked like it was made of good materials, would shatter the moment it came in contact with a cultivator's protective quintessence, turning into countless tiny imprints that pierced through the protective quintessence like air. After that, the imprints would stick to the cultivator's skin through the pores. Naturally, when one looked into the body, one would not discover anything strange about it. As for how to use thunder and lightning to gather these scattered imprints and explode them, one could only figure it out after reading the secret manual for the thunder fire mark. Just by observing it, one could only get a rough idea. However, for Xiao Chen to be able to see this far, he already had a way to break this thunder fire mark. This trip to the Black Sea had given Xiao Chen many pleasant surprises. This trip had not been in vain. Be it the world hunt of that pirate leader or this Xia Luo's thunder fire mark, they were all unique martial techniques that broadened his horizons. "Hey, Miss Yu, can we go now?" After dealing with the pirates, Yu Bingyun was not in a rush to leave. She seemed to have made some new discoveries, so Xia Luo asked out of curiosity. Yu Bingyun seemed to have confirmed something. She smiled and said, "There's no rush. I met a friend. Let's wait for him." "Friend? Where is he? Why don't I see him?" An anxious expression flashed in Xia Luo's eyes as he looked around. However, he did not discover Xiao Chen, who was 50 kilometers away. He did not know who Yu Bingyun was referring to. Yu Bingyun smiled faintly. Then, she turned her head and spoke in sign language. "Young Master Xiao, how much longer are you going to keep watching?" This stunned Xiao Chen, who had been observing from the reef. Even from 50 kilometers away, Yu Bingyun had discovered his presence. "What sharp senses! You are much stronger than this Xia Luo," Xiao Chen muttered to himself. He guessed that Yu Bingyun must have sensed him when he used his spiritual sense to scan the other party. Since he had already been discovered, there was no need to continue hiding. Xiao Chen pushed off the water and executed Thunder Dragon steps. 3 lightning dragons swam in the water. 4 lightning dragons danced at the sides, and 3 circled above Xiao Chen's head. The Thunder Dragon steps, modified from the Blue Dragon Cloud soaring art, was mighty and more suitable for Xiao Chen. He could use it as he pleased. In combat, it was even more compatible with his martial techniques. After about 7 minutes, Xiao Chen easily arrived 50 kilometers away. He pushed off the water, and 10 lightning dragons entered his body. The mighty aura instantly vanished, demonstrating Xiao Chen's strong control over the Thunder Dragon steps. He could use it as he pleased, advancing and retreating with a thought. Xiao Chen slowly landed beside Yu Bingyun. When he landed, he did not cause any splash. He said calmly, "This is a little unexpected. Unexpectedly, I ran into Miss Yu here. Why is it that only you are allowed to come to the Black Sea for experiential training but not me? I also have the cultivation of the blue-robed emperor," Yu Bingyun said softly with a smile. "Young Master Xia, let me introduce you. This is my friend, Mo Yun, from the Kunlun continent." Mo Yun? Xiao Chen wondered why Yu Bingyun helped him hide his identity. However, this was fine. Although not many people knew about the Blue Dragon King in the Black Sea, he could use an alias to save himself some trouble. Xiao Chen did not deny it, taking it as acquiescence. Xia Luo smiled straightforwardly. After greeting Xiao Chen, he asked, "I wonder, where is Brother Mo's destination?" "Blackwater City," Xiao Chen answered honestly. Xia Luo's expression changed, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Then he smiled strangely and said, "Is that so? Brother Mo, think carefully and see if you remembered wrong." This was already a clear threat, telling Xiao Chen to change his itinerary and not disturb his time with Yu Bingyun. Crazy! Xiao Chen cursed in his heart. Then he looked at the other party indifferently and said, "I know better than you whether I remembered wrong or not. There is no need for Brother Xia to worry." When Xia Luo heard this, his expression turned exceptionally sullen. Unexpectedly, this fellow did not understand his clear hint. Yu Bingyun smiled and said, "In that case, it looks like I can travel with young Master Mo on this trip to Blackwater City." As Yu Bingyun spoke, she completely ignored Xia Luo, upsetting the other party. Blackwater City Island was the core island of the Blackwater Sea. It was astonishingly vast, so vast that it could no longer be simply called an island. Even the blue-robed emperor would have to spend a lot of time to explore every place. Of course, this was just to explore every place. If one wanted to study it seriously, even 100 years would not be enough. The terrain of the island was extremely complicated. There were mountains, plains, deserts, snowy lands, and all sorts of other landforms. The ruins of the ancient era could be found everywhere, attracting many experts to adventure there. Historically, the many islands of the Black Sea had once been a complete continent. It had its own glorious period with many heroes, overlords, powerful sovereigns, and legendary martial emperors. Stars twinkled, looking resplendent and glorious. However, as time passed, after the continent shattered, very few people remembered that period of history. Xiao Chen's group of 3 headed for Blackwater City did not move very fast. The main reason was that Xiao Chen and Yu Bingyun wanted to gain experiential training to see what was different about the Black Sea cultivators. After walking for half a month, the group saw the outline of Blackwater Island. In this half a month, Xiao Chen had had enough of the legendary Thunder Fire Sovereign's descendant, Xia Luo. Xia Luo felt that he would definitely be able to recreate the Thunder Fire Sovereign's glorious feat one day, so he looked down on Xiao Chen from the bottom of his heart. Furthermore, Xiao Chen did not know how to adapt to circumstances, ruining his chance to be alone with Yu Bingyun. This made Xia Luo feel even more upset and depressed. If not for Yu Bingyun being present, Xia Luo would have attacked Xiao Chen long ago to teach him a lesson. There is a small town in front. We can rest there for the night and rush to Blackwater City at daybreak. My Xia clan is rather famous in Blackwater City. When we get to the city, I can introduce Miss Yu to the famous blue-robed emperor experts of Blackwater City. As Xia Luo said this, he glanced at Xiao Chen casually, putting on an aloof air. Xiao Chen felt speechless. Femme fatale. This Xia Luo looked like someone with some strength and was not stupid. However, after getting infatuated with Yu Bingyun, it was like water got into his head. Xia Luo's actions were all childish. For example, he started to flaunt his clan. This made Xiao Chen feel that it was ridiculous. Chapter 1143. Since we have arrived at Blackwater Island, let's part ways for now. I still have matters to attend to, so I won't disturb the two of you any longer. Not willing to stay any longer, Xiao Chen prepared to take his leave. Who knew, Xia Luo, who had been displeased with Xiao Chen along the way, interjected before Yu Bingyun could say anything, "Young Master Mo, since we are already at Blackwater Island, why the rush to leave? Don't refuse to give me face. No matter what, I have to do my duty as a host. It was hard for me to bear with you for such a long time. Now that I've finally reached my territory, it won't be easy for me to leave." Xia Luo steeled his heart. No matter what method he had to use, he had to make Xiao Chen stay, to let him know the consequences of interrupting him. Xiao Chen looked at Xia Luo's expression. When the other party raised his eyebrows, he knew what Xia Luo was planning. Originally, he didn't want to cause any more trouble, but now he was really angry. "If you want to play, I'll play with you. Let's see who cries more in the end." He immediately smiled and said, "Is that so? As a super city of the Black Sea, I have long been curious about Blackwater City. Since young Master Xia is willing to entertain me, I will not leave." Xia Luo sneered in his heart. "You are smiling now, but when the time comes, you won't even be able to cry even if you want to." However, Xia Luo put on a warm expression. Yu Bingyun, who was at the side, was very smart. Naturally, she knew what Xia Luo was thinking. However, she did not feel worried for Xiao Chen. Given Xia Luo's level, he was too naive to think that he could play such tricks on Xiao Chen. In the heavenly starry ocean, the holy scions of the immortal Holy Lands were all traumatized by Xiao Chen. A declining clan with a glorious ancestor was far from sufficient. In her heart, she also looked forward to the matter of the heavenly origin pill that Xiao Chen left behind. However, due to Xia Luo sticking to her, it was not convenient for her to ask about it. I should have a chance to ask Xiao Chen about it when I check into the inn tonight. Night came earlier in the Black Sea than in other places. In the middle of the night, through the dark clouds, apart from a hazy bright moon, no stars could be seen. Dong dong dong. Knocking came from the door to Xiao Chen's room. Xiao Chen, who was cultivating cross-legged, opened his eyes and sent out his spiritual sense. It was Yu Bingyun. Xiao Chen opened the door with a wave of his hand and said indifferently, "I thought you had forgotten about the heavenly origin pill." It looks like you still remember. Yu Bingyun walked over and asked softly, "How is it? Did you succeed?" An exquisite jade bottle flew towards Yu Bingyun. Yu Bingyun's slender, snow-white hands gracefully caught the jade bottle. Yu Bingyun opened the jade bottle and gently sniffed it. Her usually calm face could not help revealing a trace of joy. She closed the bottle cap and said, "Many thanks, Xiaochen. This time I owe you a huge favor." "There's no need to be so polite. It's not difficult for me to refine this heavenly origin pill. After all, you've prepared 100 sets of materials. No matter what, you'll succeed at least one set." Xiaochen appeared rather calm at Yu Bingyun's excitement. He would not be able to gain too much advantage from this woman. If he could draw a line between them, it would be best to do so. Yu Bingyun put away the jade bottle and did not dwell on this topic. She glanced at Xiaochen and asked, "I wonder, why did young Master Xiao appear in the Black Sea? Do you have a plan?" Naturally, Xiaochen would not tell her his plan. He smiled and said, "My appearance in the Black Sea is easy to explain. What about you? As the Lunar Palace's holy daughter, why did you come out alone? Are you not afraid of an accident?" Yu Bingyun smiled and said, "As the Lunar Palace's holy daughter, barring any accidents, I will be the next Lunar Palace master." Naturally, the person in charge of the Lunar Palace cannot be a flower vase in a greenhouse. The Black Sea is the best cultivation ground for the blue-robed emperor. It is not strange for me to be here. Xiaochen kept feeling that the other party definitely had a purpose for appearing in the Black Sea. Since Yu Bingyun was not willing to say, naturally, he would not keep asking. The two chatted casually for a while. Then, Yu Bingyun stood up and took her leave. Before she left, she suddenly turned her head back and said, "You had best not leave Blackwater City before the 15th of next month. Otherwise, you might miss out on something that you will regret for life." Before the 15th, Xiaochen thought of the invitation in his hand. His heart skipped a beat, and he quickly chased after Yu Bingyun. "Are you talking about the Jadeite Mountain Manners ceremony?" This time, it was Yu Bingyun's turn to find it strange. "How did you know about this?" "Right now, not many people know about this." Xiaochen took out his invitation. Yu Bingyun received it and took a look. Then, she smiled and said, "You are really confident. The manor lord of this Jadeite Mountain Manor even prepared an invitation. Do you really think that you will succeed? Are you not afraid of making a fool of yourself?" "What exactly is it? Can't you tell me a little in advance?" Yu Bingyun shook her head and said, "I really can't tell you this. Otherwise, if something unexpected happens, it will not be good for either of us. You just have to remember not to leave Blackwater City before the 15th of next month. If you are lucky enough, your chances of advancing to Martial Emperor in 5 years will be much higher." When Xiaochen heard this, he suddenly felt the invitation in his hand become exceptionally heavy. The mysterious Yu Bingyun had piqued Xiaochen's curiosity to the extreme. However, the other party was not willing to reveal anything. "It is not late anymore. You should stop cultivating and have a good sleep. Have a good dream." Yu Bingyun smiled sweetly. Unconsciously, she revealed a perfect air that could topple all living things, one that could topple cities. Xiaochen was not in the mood to appreciate it. He smiled bitterly and said, "Do you think that I can sleep peacefully with my current curiosity?" Yu Bingyun bit her lip and pondered. After hesitating for a while, she looked at Xiaochen and said, "Very well. I can only tell you that the Jadeite Mountain Manners ceremony this time has something to do with a divine weapon. Furthermore, this divine weapon has a strong connection to the heart of an emperor." After sending off Yu Bingyun with his eyes, Xiaochen still could not figure out the connection. He knew too little. "Ao Jiao, what do you think it is?" "If I guessed right, the ceremony should be for the Jadeite Mountain Manor to have a divine weapon enter the divine weapon ranking, becoming one of the 10 strongest divine weapons in the world. There have been many such ceremonies in history." Xiaochen suddenly understood. Aside from this, there was indeed no other ceremony that could be connected to a divine weapon. Divine weapons could rival emperor-grade secret treasures. There were many of them, but only 10 of them could enter the divine weapon ranking, known as transcendent divine weapons. Transcendent divine weapons could intimidate sovereign martial emperors, comparable to primordial emperor-grade secret treasures. As far as Xiao Qian knew, the saber sovereign Wu Xiaotian and the sword sovereign Lu Xiaoyun dared to fight with primes because they had the coiling monarch time saber and the scarlet firmament void sword. This showed how strong the transcendent divine weapons on the divine weapon ranking were. After figuring this out, the other clues immediately made sense. The merchant group that Xiao Qian saw when he entered the Black Sea should be carrying the supplementary divine materials for breaking into a transcendent divine weapon. Xiao Qian also understood why Yu Bingyun appeared. As far as he knew, the startling Phoenix Zither, a transcendent divine weapon ranked 10th on the divine weapon ranking, was in the hands of the Lunar Palace. If another divine weapon succeeded in breaking into a transcendent divine weapon, the heavenly Phoenix Zither, ranked 10th, would definitely fall. The reason was none other than the fact that only 10 divine weapons were allowed on the divine weapon ranking. As long as a new divine weapon made it into the divine weapon ranking, the one ranked last would definitely fall, becoming an ordinary divine weapon. Yu Bingyun's purpose in coming here was to stop the Jadeite Mountain Manor's Manor Lord from breaking into a transcendent divine weapon, preventing the startling Phoenix Zither from falling off the divine weapon ranking. When Xiao Qian thought about it carefully, the Lunar Palace probably sent people to look for the pirates that came to rob the merchant ship. With this connection made sense, all the clues connected in Xiao Qian's mind. He now understood the entire sequence of events. All that was left was the connection between the divine weapon and the heart of an emperor. This was simple. He just needed to find out the origins of the divine weapon that the Jadeite Mountain Manor possessed. Ao Jiao, thank you, Xiao Qian said with a smile, revealing joy on his face. Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, smiled faintly and said, "You cannot see clearly because you are closely involved. Given your intelligence, if you were a bystander, you would definitely be able to see more clearly than me." Bang! Just at this moment, just as Xiao Qian was about to answer, the door to the room suddenly shattered. A strong, knife-like wind blew in. Chapter 1144. Many of the decorations in the room were shredded to pieces. Clanging sounds rang out incessantly. The originally quiet room suddenly turned into a mess. Xia Luo stood outside the door with a furious expression. He retracted his hand and said coldly, "Brat, I gave you face, but you do not want it. Why did Yu Bingyun come to your room? Tell me everything in detail." A murderous intent flashed in Xiao Qian's heart. He suppressed the rage in his heart and stood up. Then he asked indifferently, "Is there a need to tell you?" Good. Very good. Xia Luo's killing chi surged all over his body. He smiled coldly as he stared at Xiao Qian. The ignorant are truly ignorant. Originally, I was planning to let you live and deal with you when we reach Blackwater City. It looks like there is no need to do so now. Die! Xia Luo roared ferociously, and a fierce electric fire burned on his body. A berserk electric light surged out of his body. In that instant, the electric light blasted the entire inn apart. The warriors staying in the inn were like frightened birds and beasts. They all rushed out, not daring to stay in the same place for a moment. They were afraid that they would get involved in the battle between the experts. Amid the electric light, Xia Luo was like a thunder god. His aura was unparalleled. When he punched, thousands of electric bolts burning with flames appeared. When Xia Luo punched at Xiao Qian, his rage soared. He used his full power in this punch, not holding anything back at all. Berserk thunder rumbled, not stopping for even a moment. Xia Luo's punch displayed a strong and horrifying explosive force. It was clear that he wanted to kill Xiao Qian with one punch. That's right. The accumulations of the legendary Thunder Fire Sovereign's bloodline cannot be underestimated. Even though it had declined significantly, Xia Luo's strength was still remarkable and qualified to be arrogant. Of course, Xia Luo was only slightly knowledgeable. In Xiao Qian's eyes, this was far from sufficient. Xiao Qian, who was seated, suddenly stood up. His heavenly seal moved with a thought. 10,000 strands of law energy drove the surging power of the world with a thought. The rock hates the sky for being too low when it spreads its wings. When Xiaochen punched as well, a huge kunpeng that covered half the sky soared up behind him. The shattered in immediately turned into powder and vanished. Bush, bush, bush. Xiaochen did not move at all. However, when he moved at full power, his aura instantly suppressed Xia Luo. Without giving Xia Luo any time to be shocked, the instant the two fists collided, Xia Luo vomited blood and flew back. Yu Bingyun hovered high in the sky. A consummation Emperor Wu with a horrifying cultivation stood behind her. "Is that your friend?" the old man asked Yu Bingyun as he pointed to Xia Luo. Yu Bingyun shook her head. "Naturally not." "That's good. This person's character is extremely terrible. His reputation in the Black Sea is not very good either." The old man nodded. Then he pointed to Xiaochen and asked, "How is that person related to young Miss?" "He was the one who killed the leader of our first batch of people, the Blood Wolf pirate group." Yu Bingyun sighed softly. After asking about the details, she understood. She said, "He is my friend. This should just be a misunderstanding. He does not have any connection to the Jadeite Mountain Manor. Is the plan ready?" "It is ready," the old man whispered. "I can guarantee that the Jadeite Mountain Manor will lose more than they gain on the 15th of next month." As the two spoke, the battle below slowly came to an end. After Xiaochen sent Xia Luo flying with a punch, he fell into a rhythm of getting beaten up. Many of the cultivators staying in the town recognized Xia Luo. When they saw him getting beaten up so miserably, their faces filled with surprise. "Who is this white-clad youth? How come he dares to beat up the Xia clan's people? He is really strong." Among the younger generation of Blackwater City, this Xia Luo is considered quite a character. Unexpectedly, he got beaten up so miserably at his own home. Xia Luo, who had been beaten up to the point of losing his temper, howled in agony. He no longer had any of his earlier tyranny. He glared hatefully at Xiaochen before rushing back to Blackwater City. Xiaochen stood upright with his hands behind his back. He did not give chase, letting Xia Luo flee in a sorry state. "This is going to be somewhat problematic. The Xia clan is very powerful in Blackwater City." "You were too rash," Yu Bingyun said slowly as she landed. Xiaochen did not care. He said, "There are more than 100 million people in the city, comparable to a large nation. No matter how powerful the Xia clan is, they will not find me that easily. There will be a blue-robed emperor-level auction in Blackwater City soon. Are you interested in going?" Clearly, Yu Bingyun did not care about Xia Luo's matter. She mentioned something else and extended an invitation to Xiaochen. Sure. Right now, Xiaochen had more than 100 million black astral coins. He felt some anticipation for this blue-robed emperor-level auction. Perhaps he might be able to find some equipment that he wanted. When the sky brightened, Xiaochen and Yu Bingyun arrived before Blackwater City at the same time. The black city walls were like a dragon forged of steel, coiled on the ground. There was no sunlight shining on the dark space. However, there was a restrained glow that flickered on the city walls, looking extremely mysterious. This ring of city walls probably had other mysteries, containing many divine materials. Even if a martial emperor attacked, he might not be able to destroy the city in an instant. As Yu Bingyun looked at the city walls, she also felt moved. She said, "The rank of this city is not low. It can be considered a rank 8 city. It can block an ordinary Emperor Wu. Cities are divided into ranks." Xiaochen asked out of curiosity. Yu Bingyun smiled gently and said, "That is natural. There are numbers from 1 to 9. The higher the rank, the better. After rank 9 is the strongest holy city." Xiaochen entered deep thought. Then he thought about the newly built Heaven Dragon City. Based on what Emochin said, it was not weaker than Bright Moon City. So he asked, "What rank is Bright Moon City?" Pride flashed on Yu Bingyun's face. She said, "Of course, Bright Moon City is a holy city that surpasses rank 9. Furthermore, it has been passed down for tens of thousands of years. After accumulating continuously, it is worthy of the title of Immortal Holy City. It is one of the strongest holy cities in the entire oceanic world." In that case, it looked like the rank of Heaven Dragon City was not bad either. It could be considered a holy city as well. However, it was still a distance away from the immortal holy city. In the future, Xiaochen would see if he could think of other ways to catch up to the accumulations of these immortal holy cities. Speaking of which, how many immortal holy cities are there in the oceanic world that are worthy of the title of the strongest holy city? After paying the entrance tax, the two entered the city and started chatting. Yu Bingyun knew a lot about such information. She immediately answered, 7. There is an immortal holy city in each vast sea region. In the heavenly starry ocean is Bright Moon City. In the Penglai Sea is Penglai City. In the Black Sea is the Core Sea Domain, the Dark Sea's Dark City. This was the first time Xiaochen heard about this, so he felt somewhat curious. He continued asking, what about the other 4? Could it be that aside from these 3 sea domains, there are other sea domains? There definitely are. However, it is useless to tell you now. The oceanic world is practically endless. Even the overlord Neptune does not dare to say that it understands every sea domain. As the two chatted, they entered an inn. After ordering some food and eating, they headed for the rooms that they had reserved for each other. Xiaochen stopped the manservant who came to collect the clothes and gave him 100 black astral coins. He wanted the manservant to figure out the details of the Jadeite Mountain Manor's divine weapon within 4 hours. This was all public information. The Jadeite Mountain Manor was very famous in Blackwater City. As long as the locals spent some time, they would be able to obtain it easily. When the manservant saw the 100 black astral coins, he felt that it was no different from taking it for free. He quickly agreed with a wide smile on his face. Sitting cross-legged on his thighs, Xiaochen continued to temper himself, merging the 5 different attributes into his saber soul. At the same time, in a courtyard belonging to the Xia clan in Blackwater City, Xia Luo spoke to an old man with a sullen expression. This old man was called Wang Zhen. 3 years ago, he successfully broke through to great perfection blue-robed emperor, becoming a consummation blue-robed emperor who formed a soul for his heavenly seal. From then on, Wang Zhen became the person in charge of the Xia clan in Blackwater City, managing all the Xia clan's factions in Blackwater City. All Wang Zhen needed to do was accumulate enough and clear the great tribulation of wind and fire. Then, he could make his breakthrough to Emperor Wu. However, if he failed the great tribulation of wind and fire, he would most likely die. Even if he accumulated enough, he might not have the courage or confidence to undergo the great tribulation of wind and fire. How bold! How dare he bully our Xia clan so openly? Second young master, don't worry. Leave this matter to this old man. As long as I find this person, I will cripple him on the spot. A murderous intent flashed in Wang Zhen's eyes. With his consummation blue-robed emperor cultivation, killing a great perfection blue-robed emperor would be a piece of cake. After Xiaochen merged his soul into the heavenly seal, not only would he be able to drive the power of the world much purer than the great perfection blue-robed emperor, but he would also be able to do it more easily. This was a qualitative difference from the great perfection blue-robed emperor. The most important thing was that after Xiaochen merged his soul into the heavenly seal had already become the vague form of the heart of an emperor. At this moment, unless a cultivator's head was chopped off or their heart was shattered, it would be very difficult for them to deal any fatal damage to the consummation blue-robed emperor. Now, the blue-robed emperor's sage body strengthened once more, becoming infinitely close to the golden emperor body. Xia Luo's expression turned sinister as he said sullenly, "There is no rush for now. 3 days from now, Blackwater City will hold a blue-robed emperor level auction. At that time, I will be able to obtain a few treasures, and my strength will improve by leaps and bounds." Wang Zhen was very meticulous and immediately understood Xia Luo's meaning. The second young master wanted to personally defeat that white-clad man to wash away his shame. No problem. I will listen to second young master. Back at the inn, Xiaochen exited his cultivation state. Of the 5 high-grade attributes, Xiaochen could already perfectly merge death and massacre into his saber soul. Now, he could form a 100% compatible saber soul and a death saber soul. Their might was not much weaker than the lightning saber soul. If Xiaochen could cultivate these 2 states into wills, they would be no weaker than the lightning saber soul. At that time, his combat prowess would not be much weaker than a consummation blue-robed emperor's. Dong, dong, dong. There was knocking on the door, and a manservant popped his head out with a smile. Then, he handed a complete set of information to Xiao Chen. The manservant's efficiency was faster than he expected. Xiao Chen rewarded him with some black astral coins before sending the manservant away. Xiao Chen wanted to see what kind of divine weapon this jadeite mountain manor had. As Xiao Chen looked carefully and flipped through the information page by page, the expression on Xiao Chen's face turned increasingly grave. He could not suppress the excitement on his face. Chapter 1145. The jadeite mountain manor's divine weapon was called the Heavenly Cloud Jadeite Sword. It was left behind by the jadeite sovereign, who no longer managed the jadeite mountain manor. The Heavenly Cloud Jadeite Sword was not forged by the jadeite sovereign. Its original name was not that either. Instead, it was called the Heavenly Blood Sword. This was the sword of another legendary martial emperor of the Black Sea, the Blood Sword Sovereign. The glory that the Blood Sword Sovereign once created was even more dazzling than that of Xia Luo's ancestor, the Thunderfire Sovereign. Aside from the Blood Sword Sovereign's human bloodline, he also had the bloodline of the Deep Abyss Demonic World's blood race, a mixed blood of humans and demons. However, the Blood Sword Sovereign's history was too ancient. Before the Black Sea continent shattered, he had already died. The legends he left behind only existed in ancient books. There was only one story that spread far and wide, the Blood Sword Sovereign forming the heart of an emperor before advancing to martial emperor. He became the first person to do so, shaking the entire Kunlun realm. In the history of the martial epoch, no one had formed a complete heart of an emperor before advancing to martial emperor. The heavenly seal infused into the soul was only the vague form of the heart of an emperor, far from the true heart of an emperor. Only those who cleared the great tribulation of wind and fire, reforged their golden body, and successfully pushed open the emperor's door could possess the heart of an emperor. However, this Blood Sword Sovereign broke this rule, becoming the only person in history to possess the heart of an emperor before advancing to martial emperor. Xiao Chen's hand nearly trembled as he held the information. If he could grasp this secret technique and condense the heart of an emperor, he would be able to resolve the problem of infusing the soul into the heavenly seal. The problem of infusing the soul into the heavenly seal would naturally be solved when he reached great perfection blue-robed emperor and consummation blue-robed emperor. The principle was very simple. When one merged the soul into the heavenly seal, it only formed the vague form of the heart of an emperor. If one condensed the complete heart of an emperor in advance, why would one care about a vague form? This was the opportunity that Yu Bingyun mentioned. After putting down the information, Xiao Chen calmed down. If this secret technique was so easy to find, there would have been a second person who condensed the heart of an emperor in advance after tens of thousands of years. Could the crux of the secret technique for condensing the heart of an emperor be related to the jadeite mountain manor's Heavenly Cloud Jadeite Sword? With limited information, this was all that Xiao Chen could think of. The secret technique to condense the heart of an emperor in advance was definitely related to the Heavenly Cloud Jadeite Sword. However, what kind of connection did it have with the Heavenly Cloud Jadeite Sword becoming a transcendent divine weapon? As for Yu Bingyun's position in this matter, no one knew. Putting down the documents, Xiao Chen rubbed his head. There was no point in thinking too much. He just had to wait for the 15th of the next month. At that time, all the answers would be revealed. For now, he would concentrate on his cultivation. 3 days later, he would go to the blue-robed emperor-level auction house to take a look and see if he could gain anything. Otherwise, he would have nowhere to spend his hundreds of millions of black astral coins. That would be rather depressing. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Yu Bingyun knocked on the door punctually, inviting Xiao Chen to come with her. As the name suggested, only the blue-robed emperor was allowed to participate in the blue-robed emperor-level auction. Such an auction could not be held in an ordinary city. There was no other reason other than the fact that they could not gather many blue-robed emperors. With only 4 or 5 people, there was no competition at all. How could they possibly open an auction? However, such an auction could definitely be held in Blackwater City. Furthermore, the scene would be extremely lively. The Black Sea was the best experiential training ground for the blue-robed emperor. Its reputation was not undeserved. There were many blue-robed emperor experts in Blackwater City. While one could not see them just by looking up, with a few more steps, one would definitely run into one or two blue-robed emperors. The auction house was known as the Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion. The major faction behind it was the Heavenly Cauldron Gate, which was no weaker than a holy land. There were also several sovereign martial emperors, all of whom had connections to the Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion. The Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion, which had a frighteningly strong backer, had already organized the blue-robed emperor level auction for several hundred years. No one had ever dared to cause trouble. Slowly, this blue-robed emperor level auction became a major event in Blackwater City. It attracted nearly 80% of the blue-robed emperors in the entire Blackwater Sea. There were even blue-robed emperors in the neighboring Blackwind Sea and Blackfire Sea, who came because of its fame, hoping to find a treasure. When Xiao Chen and Yu Bingyun rushed to the street where the Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion was located, they discovered that many cultivators had already gathered in front of the pavilion. There were also several people in the nearby inns and pavilions. They held wine cups as if they were watching the excitement. Occasionally, they would whisper to each other or exclaim in surprise. "What is going on?" Xiao Chen asked out of curiosity. This was Yu Bingyun's first time here as well, so she was not clear on what was going on. She only understood after asking a passerby. It turned out that the Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion's blue-robed emperor-level auction tickets were not bought with black astral coins. Instead, cultivators had to prove their strength. The stronger one was, the better the ticket they could obtain. Those with average strength could only obtain ordinary tickets and sit in the hall, unable to enjoy a private room. This was rather interesting. In the other auctions, which one did not treat the blue-robed emperor as an honored guest. Here, one had to rely on one's strength to obtain a ticket. If one was not strong enough, one could only obtain the most ordinary ticket. Under the gaze of so many eyes, it was embarrassing enough to only get a ticket to the main hall. "Let's go over and take a look." The two exuded the aura of the blue-robed emperor as they parted the crowd and headed in. When they arrived, they finally saw what was going on. There was 100-meter-tall stone stele at the foot of the thousands of steps paved with metal. This was the testing stele for the blue-robed emperor's strength. Rows of gems were embedded in the stele at regular intervals. There were a total of 7 rows, and each row had 10 gems. Not far away, there was an exquisite and profound metal dummy connected to the stele through a formation. Occasionally, the blue-robed emperor would step forward and strike the metal dummy. Then, the gems embedded in the stele would glow continuously. When the two stepped forward, a small perfection blue-robed emperor happened to be there. He mustered his strength and drove the power of the world with all his might. Then he punched the metal dummy. Bang! There was a deafening sound. A strong wind blew, and the clouds churned. The aura and pressure looked very strong. The 10 white gems in the first row on the testing stele all lit up in an instant. The entire stele glowed with a bright white light. After lighting up the 10 gems in the first row, one would obtain the right to enter the auction. However, whether one could obtain the honored guest status and enjoy a private room would depend on the results. The speed at which the 10 blue gems in the second row lit up was clearly much slower. By the time the 300th row of green gems lit up, the speed at which they lit up became even slower. The cultivator standing in front of the metal dummy had a nervous and expectant expression. However, of the 10 gems in the third row, only 5 lit up in the end. The third row is not fully lit up. Sorry, we can only give you the most ordinary tickets. The person in charge of the Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion, who was standing at the side, took out a ticket and handed it to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man received the ticket with a depressed expression. "I am already a peak small perfection blue-robed emperor, yet I cannot even obtain the honored guest status. What's wrong? You are not convinced?" The person in charge of the Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion said expressionlessly. "I was just saying, the middle-aged man said with an embarrassed smile. After he spoke, he headed straight for the stairs and entered the heavenly cauldron pavilion. How could he not be convinced? This was not a place for a blue-robed emperor to behave atrociously. Even if it were a minor heavenly Emperor Wu, he would have to think twice before coming. After that, Xiao Chen looked at a few more people and understood the trick. One had to light up at least 3 rows before they could obtain an honored guest ticket. After that, for every row lit up, they could obtain a private room on a higher level, enjoying better service and benefits. Bang! There was another loud sound, and the stone steel started to change colors rapidly. White, blue, green, red. It only stopped after changing 6 colors. The power of one punch lit up 6 rows of gems. This immediately caused an uproar, attracting the attention of several people. It is another consummation blue-robed emperor character. This is Jin Liangqi. 10 years ago, he was a consummation blue-robed emperor expert. However, he has not shown himself in the past few years. Apparently, he is preparing to undergo his great tribulation of wind and fire. He probably does not have the guts to undergo his great tribulation of wind and fire. Otherwise, he would not have shown himself. Before the envious gazes of the crowd, Jin Liangqi's slightly gloomy face did not change at all. He received the ticket for the honored guest room on the 6th floor and walked over expressionlessly. Xiao Chen thought to himself, it turns out that one needs the strength of a consummation blue-robed emperor to light up the gems on the 6th row. After observing for a long time, Xiao Chen discovered that this testing stone steel was extremely accurate in measuring one's strength. All this while, Xiao Chen did not have a clear idea of the level of his strength. The testing stone steel before him was a good opportunity to see the strongest strength that he could burst out with and how big the gap was between it and those consummation blue-robed emperor existences. Just as Xiao Chen was about to step forward and make a move, a familiar figure walked over. It was the legendary Thunder Fire Sovereign's descendant, Xia Luo. Accompanying Xia Luo was an old man with an extremely strong aura. This was a consummation blue-robed emperor expert. However, when Xiao Chen observed this old man, he found that this old man's aura was weaker than Jin Liangqi's. The difference was obvious. Indeed, as Xia Luo expected, when Jin Liangqi punched the metal puppet, the light changed. Only 3 purple gems on the 6th row lit up. Compared to the 9 purple gems on the 6th row that Jin Liangqi lit up, this was far from enough. After successfully obtaining a VIP room on the 6th floor, Xia Luo followed behind the old man with a cocky expression. There were many hidden talents in Blackwater City. The blue-robed emperor level auction had drawn out all these consummation blue-robed emperors, opening one's horizons. Xiao Chen walked out of the crowd in anticipation, preparing to test which row of gems he could light up. Whoosh! Just as Xiao Chen was about to reach the metal puppet, someone with a strong aura flew over in the air, not even bothering to look at Xiao Chen. This person continued diving down, kicking up a strong wind that was as sharp as a saber. He said coldly, "Scram to the side. Let this young master test first." The strong wind was like a saber, and the aura was like a mountain. This figure arrived with a surging aura. His fearless sharpness forced back the surrounding cultivators watching the excitement. Xiao Chen frowned. Without much time to think, he turned around and sent a palm strike. The other party was too fast. If Xiao Chen hesitated for even a moment, he would get injured. Chapter 1146. There was no such thing as reason in the Black Sea. The weak would never gain sympathy. Bang! The newcomer was somewhat surprised. Under the pressure of his strong aura, the other party, a newly advanced great perfection blue-robed emperor, did not choose to retreat. The newcomer's lips curled up in a cruel smile as he said coldly, "You are like a mantis trying to stop a chariot." Scram! The newcomer also sent out a palm strike. Flames soared and formed many flaming mountains behind him. A total of 18 flaming mountains appeared in an instant. The blazing air burned everyone's skin, forcing the cultivators watching to move back another kilometer. A few cultivators with low cultivations even had their eyebrows and hair set ablaze. This showed how horrifying the might of this palm strike was. How startling would the power of 18 flaming mountains be when they erupted together? When the cultivators saw this newcomer's appearance clearly, they all exclaimed. Clearly, they recognized this person and were extremely surprised at his appearance. On the other hand, Xiao Chen's palm strike looked ordinary, without any wind or waves, without any shocking mysterious phenomenon. Upon seeing this scene, several cultivators shook their heads. This white-clad youth was probably going to suffer. Only Yu Bingyun knew that Xiao Chen had not used his full power yet. If he really did, his aura would suppress the newcomer in an instant. Boom! The moment the two palms collided, an earth-shattering sound rang out, and the surrounding void distorted. The 18 flaming mountains erupted at the same time, rumbling endlessly. Overwhelming heat waves spread out in all directions. The flames twisted into all sorts of shapes in the twisted space, preventing the cultivators in the surroundings from seeing the situation clearly. However, it did not matter to them whether they could see or not. Not many people believed that this white-clad youth could block under such circumstances. With such a horrifying palm strike, even if he did not die, he would be severely injured. This was the consequence of blind arrogance. Sometimes, one had to acknowledge one's grandson. Youths should not be too sharp. After suffering some grievances, they would not be able to suppress their temper. The scene before them was the best example. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Suddenly, the crisp hum of a saber rang out in the space distorted by the flames. It was like a string of pleasant zither music resounding in the surroundings. The torrential heat wave was slowly swept clean by this zither-like saber hum. The distorted space regained its tranquility and the flames disappeared, allowing everyone to see the situation on the other side clearly. When the two palms clashed, they were actually evenly matched. Xiao Chen, who did not use any martial techniques, did not take even half a step back from the force of his opponent's palm strike. The two of them still maintained the posture of their palms colliding. Under the powerful pressure, Xiao Chen's body remained as straight as a mountain. His white robe was untainted by a speck of dust. His hair danced in the wind like the strings of a zither, playing a murderous intent. Everyone was shocked. No one spoke, they were all dumbfounded. Even the person in charge of the Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion could not help but be moved. It was not because of the incredible combat prowess that Xiao Chen displayed. Instead, it was because such a martial technique was unheard of and unseen before. Unexpectedly, a person turned his clothes, his hair, every part of himself into a saber. Where did this white-robed person come from? He is the descendant of the Black Sea's great bandit Jiang Heng. Unexpectedly, he could not knock him back with one palm strike. Furthermore, I have never seen anyone use this martial technique before. How did he do it? There are sabers everywhere. This is simply miraculous. I have never heard of it before. Since ancient times, no one has ever done it like this. This is a completely different situation. It is truly miraculous. There are thousands of saber daos, but I have never seen such a saber dao before. Strange voices rang out. Everyone found this incredible, subverting the logic they knew. Yu Bingyun did not dare to be surprised. However, when she heard the youth's identity, she looked over in surprise. This arrogant youth was actually Jiang Feng, the descendant of Jiang Heng, one of the 13 great bandits of the Black Sea. Jiang Heng ranked third among the 13 great bandits, an extremely strong sovereign martial emperor. He was known as the Flame Sovereign. He moved unhindered throughout the Black Sea's 5 great seas, a major character without a doubt. His strength was overwhelming and unfathomable. Shock flashed on Jiang Feng's face. He had not expected to run into such a ruthless character in this Blackwater city. Even in Dark City, where outstanding talents abounded, there would not be more than 10 people who dared to receive the blue-robed emperor's flame palm without using a martial technique. Unexpectedly, such a person appeared in Blackwater City. Furthermore, this was a young outstanding talent about the same age as Jiang Feng. You are somewhat capable. However, this is all you are capable of. Before me, it is not enough. Back off. Jiang Feng shouted ferociously, and a ring of black flames soared up from his body. His aura soared infinitely. The power of the world and the surroundings surged and turned into an endless torrent of fiery energy. Like waves, it flowed along Jiang Feng's palm and surged toward Xiaochen. Several of the people across Xiaochen could feel the waves of fiery energy, each stronger than the one before. As the heat wave assaulted them, they had no choice but to retreat. Xiaochen did not move, letting the heat wave assault him as it pleased. He did not show any intention of retreating. In Xiaochen's sea of consciousness, his saber soul and will of thunder merged. With a thought, they immediately erupted. Purple lightning leaped out of Xiaochen's body. Every bolt of lightning contained an incredibly sharp saber intent. The lightning and saber intent merged perfectly. The other party's waves of fiery energy, each stronger than the one before, continued to erupt endlessly. Xiaochen only used his lightning saber soul and his flawless saber Dao to block the other party's surging waves of fiery energy. Xiaochen had yet to use several of his trump cards. Time slowly passed. Everyone discovered that something was wrong with the atmosphere. It was just a simple exchange of palm strikes, but the two actually fought to such an extent. The Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion's manager frowned slightly. If this continued, both sides would end up with severe injuries. That would be extremely disadvantageous to the auction. At the same time, a soft voice rang out in the manager's ears. That was the person behind the scenes of the Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion, wanting him to make a move and end this fight. Without hesitation, this person threw a palm strike. The palm wind split into two and charged at Xiaochen and Jiang Feng. Given the blue-robed emperor's cultivation at consummation, the two fighting would have to retreat even if they did not want to. Jiang Feng cursed. However, he could not do anything. At this moment, he simply could not afford to split his attention to receive this palm strike. Jiang Feng's figure flashed. When the palm wind arrived, he retreated. He spun a few times in the air before he found his footing. The Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion's manager smiled in satisfaction. However, before his smile could fade, he saw that Xiaochen did not retreat at all. Xiaochen suddenly raised his left hand, which had been hanging by his side. Then, a nimble bright moon appeared behind him, burning fiercely like a flame. It depicted lofty sentiments and hot-bloodedness. When Xiaochen sent out this palm strike, it made one's heart surge and blood surge. It was like drinking strong wine, feeling carefree and carefree. Unexpectedly, Xiaochen broke the palm wind that the Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion's manager sent out with the cultivation of a consummation blue-robed emperor. One had to know that Xiaochen had just finished fighting to the death with Jiang Feng. He did not have any time to turn around or rest. Instead, he raised his hand and broke the manager's attack. Such a scene caused many people to stare blankly. One retreated quickly, and the other did not move even half a step. It was clear who came out on top between Xiaochen and Jiang Feng. The strong wind stopped, and Xiaochen's clothes and hair fell back. The saber hum lingering in the air also stopped. Xiaochen stood upright with his hands behind his back. His delicate face exuded an indescribable pride. "You are very lucky." "That earlier palm strike was originally meant for you," Xiaochen said coldly to Jiang Feng, who was hovering in the air. Xiaochen said coldly to Jiang Feng, who was hovering in the air. Then he turned around and ignored him, heading for the metal puppet. "Bang!" Xiaochen said coldly to the hovering Jiang Feng. Then he turned around and walked towards the metal statue, ignoring him. The explosion was like thunder roaring, startling the surrounding cultivators back to their senses. They all looked at the stone tablet curiously. They wanted to see what kind of result this mysterious man in white could achieve. They all looked at the stone stele curiously, wanting to see what kind of result this mysterious white-clad person could achieve. The first row lit up in an instant, the second row lit up in a breath's time, and the third row took 3 seconds to light up. The first row lit up instantly. The second row lit up in 1 breath. The third row took 3 seconds to light up the 10 gems. If there were no surprises, Xiaochen should be able to light up the 10 gems in the 5th row. This was the limit of a peak great perfection blue-robed emperor. As for the gems in the 6th row, only a consummation blue-robed emperor, a cultivator who merged his soul with the heavenly seal, could successfully light them up. Without exception, all the cultivators who lit up the gems in the 6th row were consummation blue-robed emperors. The gems in the 5th row lit up slowly, one by one. To everyone's surprise, all 10 gems lit up. Indeed, a newly advanced Great Perfection blue-robed emperor already has the combat prowess of a peak Great Perfection blue-robed emperor. No wonder he can defeat Jiang Feng. This is an expert. I have never heard of him in the Blackwater Sea. I have never heard of him in the nearby Black Wind Sea or the Blackwater Sea. He should be from another sea region. As the crowd discussed in low voices, one of the eye-catching purple gems in the 6th row suddenly lit up silently. The surroundings fell silent. Everyone gaped, somewhat speechless. They could not believe the scene before them. After a while, they confirmed it. Startled cries rang out, and the crowd went into an uproar. A Great Perfection blue-robed emperor actually burst out with a strength that only a consummation blue-robed emperor could achieve. How startling was this? However, Xiao Chen, who stood in front of the metal puppet, frowned slightly, feeling dissatisfied. He had used his full power in that earlier punch. Aside from not using his saber or a secret technique to increase his explosive power, he had not held anything back. Unexpectedly, only one purple gem in the 6th row lit up. The difference in strength between Xiao Chen and the consummation blue-robed emperor was still obvious. Even if Xiao Chen used a secret technique, he would only light up 3 more gems, bringing the total to 4. If Xiao Chen ran into the slightly more powerful consummation blue-robed emperor, his strength would still pale in comparison. Young man, you are pretty strong. Here, these are the tickets to the VIP rooms on the 6th floor. Chapter 1147. The person in charge next to the stone tablet smiled slightly and handed a golden ticket to Xiao Chen. He continued, I have been standing here for a whole day. You are the first young martial artist to light up the 6th row of gems. Moreover, you are only at the level of Great Accomplishment blue-robed emperor. You have unlimited potential. I'm sure you'll be able to find treasures that interest you in the auction and dig out your potential. Xiao Chen took the gold card and glanced at it. He smiled casually and said, Thank you for your auspicious words, senior. Seeing that Xiao Chen was not arrogant in the slightest, the supervisor nodded inwardly, and his evaluation of Xiao Chen rose by another level. Xiao Chen turned his head and said goodbye to Yu Bingyun. Then he indicated that he would take his leave first. Yu Bingyun smiled faintly and sent a voice projection to meet up after the auction. Jiang Feng, who was hovering in the air, trembled in anger as he watched Xiao Chen walk towards the doors of the Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion before the envious gazes of many cultivators. As the descendant of the Black Sea's great bandit Jiang Heng, he spent most of his time in the Black Sea's largest sea region, the Dark Sea. Wherever he went, he would be the center of attention. Aside from a few outstanding young talents who were so strong that Xiao Chen could not do anything about them, no one in the same generation dared to be so arrogant before him. After winning by just half a move, the other party chose to ignore him. Furthermore, it was in a small place like Blackwater City. Cursing angrily, Jiang Heng landed in front of the Iron Man. His whole body was like smoke, rushing up and kicking the Iron Man. Light flickered on the stone steel as the gems lit up continuously. He also lit up the 6th row of purple gems, and 2 of them, one more than Xiao Chen. A look of pride flashed across Jiang Feng's face. Compared to me, you are still a little weaker. I have a secret technique passed down by the Jiang clan. The power he could unleash was already comparable to that of the Great Perfection blue-robed emperor. Don't give me a chance to catch you alone. With a fling of his sleeves, Jiang Feng received the golden ticket and quickly walked over. Incredible. He truly lives up to being a descendant of a sovereign martial emperor. This Jiang Feng's explosive power is really startling. He used a secret technique. The Flame King has a secret technique called the Wolf Smoke Art. Once it's used, the blood vessels in the entire body will boil, and essence energy will spurt out like smoke. It can be seen from 5 kilometers away, and its explosive power is extremely shocking. It's said that when the Wolf Smoke Art is cultivated to the highest level, it can even ignite one's own bloodline. Combined with the Jiang clan's flame cultivation technique, it can increase one's explosive power by several times. Speaking of which, this Jiang Feng has always been in Dark City. Why did he come to our Blackwater City? He's probably just passing by. Hee, but he definitely didn't expect that he would lose to a Blackwater City's advanced blue-robed emperor in front of everyone. When Jiang Feng, who was already walking up the stairs, heard these discussions, the killing intent in his eyes grew even stronger. He clenched his right hand into a fist, and his bones crackled. As soon as Jiang Feng left, another person came in. He looked to be in his 40s or 50s and had an extraordinary bearing. He was dressed luxuriously and wore a priceless jade ring on his thumb. 10 odd servants followed behind him. They walked over with their heads held high and chests puffed up. Their group was very grand and impressive. When Yu Bingyun saw this person, a strange light immediately flashed in her eyes. This middle-aged man was none other than the current manor lord of the Jadeite Mountain Manor, Fei Lingyi. Fei Lingyi's cultivation was rather horrifying. Even so, when he walked over, he did not release any aura at all. However, he still put a formless pressure on everyone. This made it hard for people to breathe and suppress their hearts, not daring to look him in the eye. The person in charge of the Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion was clearly familiar with Fei Lingyi. He took the initiative to greet Fei Lingyi and give him a purple gold ticket. That was the most distinguished seat in the auction house. Only after lighting up all 10 purple gems on the 6th row could one qualify to obtain it. Fei Lingyi received the purple gold ticket and smiled. Senior Ma is too polite. However, we still cannot break the Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion's rules. After saying that, Fei Lingyi shifted his gaze and focused on the metal puppet at the side. A startling aura suddenly erupted from Fei Lingyi's body. The berserk aura knocked some people back in time and knocked them into the air. Bang! The stone steel gave off a bright light, lighting up all 60 gems on the 6th row in one go. The sight of it was very startling. Fei Lingyi withdrew his aura and shook his head. It still won't do. Indeed, only Emperor Wu can light up the golden gems on the 7th row. Even though my strength is already no weaker than that of a small perfection Emperor Wu's, without condensing a heart of an emperor, the difference will forever be a difference. Such an aura was even more ferocious than that of the consummation blue-robed emperors from earlier. The 60 gems lit up at the same time, not pausing at all. Everyone was shocked at how strong Fei Lingyi was. In reality, this Fei Lingyi was indeed far stronger than some of the consummation blue-robed emperors. This was because the other consummation blue-robed emperors had not undergone their great tribulation of wind and fire. However, Fei Lingyi had. Although he failed, he was fortunate enough not to die. After he survived, his strength increased significantly. When one underwent the great tribulation of wind and fire, there was a slim chance of survival. Once one succeeded, one could ascend to emperor and look down on everyone, becoming a true peak character of this world. However, there were also some people who didn't succeed in overcoming their tribulations. However, they were lucky enough to survive, allowing their strength to increase once again. Such people were known as Half-Step Emperor Wu, also known as False Emperor Wu. The power of the world that they could drive was already no weaker than that of a small perfection blue-robed emperor. However, they did not have a heart of an emperor, so they were always half a step short. Furthermore, after undergoing the tribulation once, there would be no second chance. That was to say, while this Fei Lingyi looked strong now, he would never have a chance to take that half-step to Emperor Wu in this lifetime. As Yu Bingyun watched Fei Lingyi enter the Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion, a smile slowly appeared on her face. This person finally arrived. If Yu Bingyun had not come, there would have been a 30% chance of him advancing the Heavenly Cloud Jadeite Sword to a transcendent divine weapon. However, once he arrived, according to the plan, Fei Lingyi would have no chance at all, destined to fail. The divine weapon, the Heavenly Cloud Jadeite Sword, would be reduced to a pile of scrap metal. The Lunar Palace's startling Phoenix Qin would also be able to remain on the divine weapon ranking. Yu Bingyun had successfully completed her mission. Inside the Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion was an exquisite and elegant hall. The interior was a ring-shaped building with 7 floors. After Xiao Chen handed over his golden ticket, an attendant led him to a large, luxurious private room on the ring-shaped 6th floor. The private room's setup was very interesting. The Heavenly Cauldron Pavilion had no intention of protecting the privacy of the customers. The windows were open to the air. Not only the owners of the private rooms on the opposite floors but also the customers in the hall could see each other. The hall was already filled with many cultivators. These were all small perfection blue-robed emperors who did not get a private room. There were about 1,000 of them. At first glance, 1,000 small perfection blue-robed emperors seemed like a lot. However, when one thought about it carefully, just the local cultivators in Blackwater City numbered more than 100 million. Furthermore, there were many blue-robed emperors from other sea regions who came for experiential training. It would not be an exaggeration for 1,000 small perfection blue-robed emperors to gather together. If one included those blue-robed emperors who were still adventuring in the various remnants and did not have time to come, there would be even more. This was the first time Xiao Chen saw so many blue-robed emperors gathered together. He could not help but sigh in his heart. Sometimes, only when one's strength reached a certain level could one officially enter a circle of a certain level. If it were in the past, Xiao Chen would not have even heard of an auction of this scale. To him, this was like a legend. Now, Xiao Chen had gone from a minor character when he first entered the Kunlun realm to a VIP private room in a blue-robed emperor level auction. As he looked down on the group of older generation blue-robed emperors, he enjoyed the glory of being in a superior position. Something that he did not even dare to imagine back then happened to him. However, he felt strangely calm, not feeling too proud or satisfied. I wonder, what kind of scene will a Emperor Wu level auction and gathering be like? Xiao Chen picked up the wine cup on the table and gently swirled it for a while. Then he drank it in one gulp, feeling boundless anticipation in his heart. The auction would officially start only after sunset. Right now, it was still some time before sunset. Since he had nothing to do, Xiao Chen picked up the auction list on the table and carefully looked through it. It is indeed a blue-robed emperor level auction. The things being auctioned here are really exciting. To think that there is even a divine weapon. Xiao Chen's gaze moved around the list, searching for his target. Coincidentally, he saw a divine weapon being auctioned. It was a treasure sword with a starting bid of 20 million black astral coins. Aside from a consummation blue-robed emperor, a regular blue-robed emperor would not be able to afford such a price. As a saber user, Xiao Chen naturally did not dare to be interested in this. As he continued to look, a medicinal pill attracted his attention. The source-returning pill could instantly recover one's heavenly laws, which was equivalent to doubling one's law energy. To people like Xiao Chen, who did not have as much law energy as a consummation blue-robed emperor, this medicinal pill held a great attraction. When one ran out of law energy, one could consume an internal source-returning pill and immediately regain combat prowess. In times of danger, one would be able to survive. Xiao Chen had heard of this medicinal pill before. The ingredients were extremely difficult to gather, and the success rate was very low. It was extremely rare among king-grade medicinal pills. There were 5 medicinal pills in this bottle, and the starting bid was 1 million black astral coins. Xiao Chen estimated that, given the value of this medicinal pill, the final bid would be 3 or 4 times higher. After looking through the list, Xiao Chen discovered that many of the auction items did not have a detailed introduction. They did not even have a name. This was probably to maintain a sense of mystery. Only when the auction officially started would there be a grand introduction. Aside from the source-returning pill, which Xiao Chen paid special attention to, there were a few other treasures that he marked as well. As long as the price was not too ridiculous, he would bid for them. Xiao Chen was filled with anticipation for these mysterious auction items, hoping that they would give him a pleasant surprise. Strange, how could there be such a heavenly treasure being auctioned? Just as Xiao Chen was about to put down the list, Ao Jiao suddenly spoke up from the immortal spirit ring. Xiao Chen took a look at the list and felt that he had not missed anything. He did not know which auction item Ao Jiao was referring to. Why didn't I notice that auction item? It is that heptagold origin. Heptagold is a peak divine material in the first place. Heptagold origin is even more pitifully rare. If heptagold origin is added to a divine weapon, the chances of breaking through to a transcendent divine weapon will double. Xiaochen quickly looked over. After he saw the starting bid, he finally understood why he had not paid attention to it. This heptagold origin actually had a starting bid of only 10,000 black astral coins. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.